How's it going? It's episode 7 of the Gaming Memories podcast, where I, Cade Call, your host, also known as RoboClip, the prophet, seer, and revelator, bearer of good news of the gaming gospel, which essentially equates to me interviewing people you've most likely never heard of, but are actually really interesting and really cool about their favorite gaming memories growing up. On this episode of the podcast, I have Adam Scott, or also known as Atamu, A-T-A-M-U. Not only does Adam travel the world filming and documenting, making awesome movies, he also is an accomplished artist selling some of the most unique and clever video game artwork online that you've ever seen. Adam and I had a great conversation. For those fellow JRPG enthusiasts out there, we spent some time arguing about the Final Fantasy franchise, which games we liked, which games we didn't. Newsflash, I'm right, Adam is wrong. We also talked about Adam's insane collection of video games and video game collectibles. To top it off, we had a story where an epic night of Halo LAN party gaming was so rudely interrupted by a sneak attack from a skunk. I had a great time talking to Adam, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. Cheers. All right, welcome to the podcast,
Thanks,
Gaming
man.
Memories. I'll probably record little intros to introduce the person.
Dope.
But I'll do that later.
Okay.
This is Adam Scott. I've known Adam for...
Too long.
Too long.
Shit, man.
It's been a long time.
16 years?
16 years.
Something like that?
And we first became friends for making sandwiches, and then we got into games.
Yes.
And you tell people who you are, what you do, and just so they can find you online if you're Instagram.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm a media manager, whatever, for a company, and I do video stuff for them, but I have an Etsy store that I do digital geek art and film art and stuff. That's Atamu Media on Etsy. You can find me on Facebook, same name, ATAMUMEDIA. And then my portfolio with all the geek art stuff is atamumedia.com. So, yeah, I do that kind of stuff.
If you want some dope geeky decorations, is it mainly decorations?
Yeah, it's like geek art prints. So the kind of stuff you'd find at like Comic-Con and stuff like that. Like I did stuff for Uncharted, Legend of Zelda, Pokemon, all sorts of different stuff. Just like different stuff that's like geek inspired. So
what's your most popular piece?
Honestly, so I have an Uncharted dual exposure. That one is really popular. Each one of them, like I did every single game, and they're all on one poster. And it's Nathan Drake, and he's transposed with a dual exposure of the environment. That's kind of like the theme of each game. Yeah. So, like the third one, you have the desert at the very end. Yes. So, like, his dual exposure is the desert. And the first one, you have that jungle. The jungle. And that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of mixed it up between them, but that's really popular. I have a Legend of Zelda Triforce poster, and I just took my 3 personal favorites. So, I did Ocarina, Majora's Mask, and Twilight Princess, actually. And that one, that one's kind of hit or miss because everyone has their own favorite Legend of Zelda. Yes. But that one's really popular too. And then I have a Sherlock poster that's really popular too from the BBC show.
How does is it as fan art, parody, like how does the legal stuff work doing art like that?
It's a gray area at the best. Like that's the thing, is that it's this weird thing where it's copyright and you got to be careful how you do it, and it has to be something that you're gonna not like take an exact photo of Nathan Drake that they used for artwork or whatever. Yeah, but like I don't even trace. I do my own hand drawing and stuff like that, and then I don't like to have like literally here's his face, there it is. I like to have it a little more interpretive, So for the Legend of Zelda one, I built it doesn't look like the Triforce exactly. It's more of a rounded version. It has like more of a diamond rupee shape, kind of the hard edges you would see on that, but it's got a little bit of different variation. And then each of the other symbols that I have on there, like I have an ocarina. It's not the same exact ocarina, like it's kind of a general ocarina shape, and that kind of stuff. So I'm like, it's kind of like You got to play with it
If
a
you
little
change
bit.
it enough, it
Yeah.
kind of makes you safe.
Yeah, and even then, it's not technically safe. No fan art really is safe because it's all copyright, right? But what it is that if you see a company, say a company like Nintendo goes, "Hey, we're going to get rid of all fan art," that's just going to piss off all the fans. And so
That's true.
And so that's what it is. It's like do you go after the little guy who's doing something here on the side that you see at the conventions all the time, and then just piss off the general population that you're always trying to market to, or do you let it slide and be like, this is another way that we're getting promoted?
It's free promotion in a way.
Yeah. And so that's why like you very rarely see anybody actually go after an artist.
I've wondered that about like all the geek T-shirt shops that are selling T-shirts.
Yeah,
I'm like,
dude.
how are they not getting cease and desists?
I don't know. Honestly, what's weird to me is like some of them are actually licensed, right? And
Yeah.
are like they'll license the actual like characters or whatever, and those ones are clean and clear, because they have to get everything approved through the original owners and stuff like that. But then there are people that just straight up just rip shit off. They just pull it off of the internet and then just
Put it on the tee.
slap it on something, and that's when it's like that's kind of sketchy, I think, So I don't know. It's kind of crazy how that works and how it really doesn't work. Honestly, it's kind of messed up that way.
If you made, do you think they just sort of watch for people who make a lot of money? Like if all of a sudden you sold 1 million of those Uncharted posters, then would there be a problem?
Yeah, as soon as they start taking notice. There was actually a guy who did all sorts of fan art, but his stuff was primarily Marvel and Deadpool stuff, right? And he actually came on to, I think it was San Diego Comic-Con, and he had his own panel, and they were like, well, what about copyright and stuff? He's like, no, they got me. He's like, but what they did is instead of them going, hey, stop doing this art, we're going to sue you and shit, they went, hey, stop using our intellectual property this way, and we'll hire you. So instead, they're like, this is kind of a nice way of going, stop doing that shit on the side. We'll give you a legit way to do it, and they handled that well. But I even know artists, local artists of Utah, that they were doing stuff. Bethesda, they do not like anyone messing with their stuff. There was a girl that I knew that she was doing just stickers of just her interpretation of the Fallout Boy or the Fallout guy, and just different variations, and she got pegged with a cease and desist. Like most of the time, as soon as you get a cease and desist, you're like, okay, game's over. I'm not going to mess with that company anymore, But with just the weird market in like conventions and stuff where you can go in and people can pay all cash and stuff, it's hard to control that anyway. So it just
does make sense that you wouldn't want to police it too hard, because those are the people that are going to buy your game.
Yeah.
And their fans are going to buy your game. And like if I was, let's say you got sued for some stupid amount of money for Uncharted. I'm your friend. I like Uncharted, but that might make me think twice about buying Uncharted.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, these guys are kind of Nazis about it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, also, you look at like their pages, like their Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. A lot of them have fan art Fridays or whatever,
where they feature it. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you're willing to use it for your own promotion, but as soon as somebody goes, hey, I made this, I drew this, it's not like they're getting, like, it's not like the artist who did that they're using on their fan art Friday is going to get a cut of anything.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, you got free promo. It's like, yeah, but you used my art, even though I used your intellectual property. So it's kind of this weird area. Yeah, it's this weird balance. And I haven't had any issues yet, knock on whatever wood is around. But I hope not. I mean, because I like doing it. It's cool. And honestly, it just builds on that community, I think. Because the people who are coming and buying anything from me, it's not anything that they were ever going to create. Like, you're not going to see that exact same kind of thing from them.
Yeah. You'll never see them take the artistic liberties that someone like you would for their property.
Yeah.
So it's the only place you can get that sort of, it's almost like, it sounds like, a lot of it I see is people will remix or they'll mash two genres together or two properties together.
That way nobody can see you.
That way you can see you. They'll do like I saw one recently that he did a Mega Man, but it was like the Xenomorph from Alien.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's genius.
Yeah.
Because now it's this weird middle ground of two things put together, and it's all his own modeling. Yeah.
Yeah, and you see that a lot because, I mean, the other safe, the like 100% safe is either for educational purposes or for parody. And so you'll see a lot that are like a joke base, as long as it's not in like a defamation style kind of parody, then most of the time it's like we can't touch that because it's a joke on our intellectual property, but it's kind of a safe one, So that's kind of like the safe area. But then when you see a dual mashup from two different companies, because Nintendo is actually pretty sue happy if you're going to build like a remake of their game.
I was going to say, they are big on any sort of fan projects for games. They don't like that.
They'll shut them down fast, right? But when it comes to art and stuff, they're pretty lenient, but if you want to be really safe, it'd be like, hey, here's a character from Nintendo playing with a character from PlayStation, playing with a character from Xbox, and then there's like nobody can hit you because they're all in there. You know, so it's a little bit more variety that way.
Did you play the Samus or the Metroid 2 remake?
No, I've heard it's dope.
It's awesome. So what happened is it came out on like GitHub or something, and Kotaku posted about it. I figured it was going to get cease and desist, so I downloaded it really quick.
Yeah,
I have it. I can give it to you, and then like a week or maybe a month later, the Nintendo I think it's a DS, the 3D, which was also a remake of the Game Boy. So that one I kind of makes sense. They're like,
they already had something in the pipeline.
We have our own remake coming out, and you guys just launched this fan remake. That one didn't bother me too much, but I did get it, and it plays just like the Super Nintendo, but it's the Game Boy one. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, you see other, like, especially in the PC world, you see that people will do mods, they'll do, you know, their own texture packs and that kind of stuff. And so it's this weird area where it's like, how much do you want to regulate, and how much do you not want to regulate? Because, I mean, if you look at, like, Skyrim, how many different mods have you seen for that? And I mean, technically, you're tinkering with kind of the root of the game. You're tinkering with how it's going to be interpreted, but that's also a huge community base for them. So
massive.
So you don't want to fuck with it too much.
And the question is, like, now you brought up Skyrim. There's like mods where they bring in other intellectual property into the world of Skyrim, and I wonder if Bethesda. Is that a gray area where they could get in trouble because some user brought in, like, Macho Man Randy Savage was one of the dragons?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I'm sure his image, WWE or WCW owns his branding, or they'll swap out the main character for someone from Final Fantasy or something like that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really get policed. I've never heard.
I think that maybe because they're bringing in, a user is bringing it into that world. Yeah. Maybe that's why they circumvent that, or they just don't touch it. Because it's like, if they brought in Macho Man Randy Savage, may he rest in peace. You know, like, then that would be different. You know, but like I feel like that's where that gray area is. But once again, like, if that didn't have that modding community, I don't think Skyrim would have had nearly the following. Because I mean, dude, it's a true.
That's a huge part of why I came.
Yeah. It's a classic already, and it's only been out for what, a decade,
maybe
a little bit longer than that. I mean, come on, that's crazy.
And aside from Resident Evil 4, maybe the most ported game of all time.
Oh my God, it's probably even more ported. Resident Evil 4 wasn't on the Alexa, so you remember they did that as a joke, but that was serious. You could play it through Alexa, right? Skyrim? Yeah, man.
I did not know that.
Look that shit up. Your listeners will probably call me out, but I think that's true. Like, it was a joke, but not a joke.
Do you like voice control the game?
Yes. Yeah, man. Like and then there was a guy who was doing a mod where it was all like the classic type, you know, like the type choose your own adventure. Yeah, text-based. Crazy. Like, and there's just such a huge following for that game. I mean, it's kind of its own entity now in that entire series. It stands on its own. Yeah.
Interesting. Have you seen on YouTube, there's a user, I'm probably going to butcher, I'm sorry if you ever come across this podcast, it's called a Kryzen X, and he's doing an Unreal 4 remake of Ocarina of Time.
Oh my goodness. I haven't heard of him, but I love when people do the Unreal Engine remakes of like classic games. It's awesome seeing just how they can go with that.
He's remade the entire intro, Hyrule Field, the first dungeon, the Hyrule Castle, like the little Epona stall with a desert, whatever they're called, the desert people, Garuda or something. I can't remember what they're called.
I think that's right. Yeah,
he's done a lot of the game. And
he's actually doing the entire game. He's not doing like a tech demo version of what it might look like.
No, he's doing the entire game.
Holy
he's been
shit.
working on it for like 3 years, and he keeps releasing new downloads where you can play more. I've been downloading and playing it, and we were talking about Nintendo being sue happy. I don't know how he hasn't been sued yet.
I don't know if it's just because I mean, he's got to have some sort of following on it, but maybe he's just gotten lucky. That's crazy that he's gotten that far without them stopping.
Really far.
That's crazy.
I should send you some links. It's amazing. It's one man team. It's like it's the Ocarina of Time remake we've always wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little clunky, but I've downloaded a few playable demos. I did the whole Deco Tree dungeon all the way through. I didn't run into any bugs.
Wow.
It was pretty awesome.
I mean, the game itself originally was clunky. What I wonder when it comes to remasters and remakes and stuff is, Like, honestly, if you're gonna redo like Ocarina or Majora's Mask or whatever, isn't the clunkiness of the controls and mechanics part of that?
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that if you're doing it for new generation or you're remastering it with updated controls, it would make sense to make things more fluid. But then it's like you got the people that are like the hold to the nostalgia,
Yes.
100% true believer classic ones, and then you got the people that are like, no, take that and rebuild it. You know, like the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Did you like it?
Dude, I loved it.
It's good.
It was fucking amazing.
So good.
Oh my gosh. And like, but that's the thing. It felt the same as when I first played. I first played it when I was 10. And like I was playing it alone with my buddy, and it was terrifying. And like if I played the exact same tank controls on it, and it
would
had,
not be fun.
it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be fun. I'm glad that they remade it, not just like remastered
They
it.
remade it, and they updated everything, but they somehow captured the original feeling of vulnerability,
Yes.
and terror.
Yes.
And I loved the game, but I started to not like it once the guy with the hat that stalks you everywhere, whatever his name is,
Mr. X.
Once Mr. X came into the picture, then every time I played, I'm like, this is just an anxiety attack.
Oh, dude. Well, that's the way it was in the first game, though. But that's the thing. That guy's a fucker. Yeah, dude. Every single time, whenever I was playing that game, I don't like games where there's that constant, undying, like battle character that you can't fight. You just have to run from. I hate that kind of shit. But for some reason in Resident Evil 2, it worked for me because I think it's because I was familiar enough with the game, the original. I mean, like I was like, okay, I know how to escape.
Yeah.
But going back to it this time, and they redid some of the areas, redid some of the maps, dude. The very first like 3 hours of me playing that, I was like, oh my god! And I had to take breaks. Like I had to literally be like, I'm only going to play this for an hour today because I just don't have the mental energy to have this asshole running after me all the time, you know. But I mean, I think it was a really good mechanic that they updated because, you know, being able to hide, you can hear him walk away, stuff like that definitely helped compared to the original, at least, you know. So I loved it. That was a really, really good remake.
It's a really good remake,
Yeah.
and I hope they do. I hope they do 3. I mean, I don't think they'll do 1 because they've already done the GameCube remake, which then
And
they
that
ported.
was solid.
That was a solid one too,
especially for the time.
Yes.
because that was the first game that finally showed that the GameCube was a solid machine. It was too little, too late, but damn, that game was smooth. And then they had Zero that kind of accompanied it.
Yeah.
you know. So I think that if they do 3, they already talked about it.
I've heard rumors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like because they already have so many of the assets that they kind of tie in already. They only have to do so much development on the rest of it. I mean, you have the Raccoon City parts that weren't quite the same, but they're like, we already have a lot of that built out. I feel like it would be sad if they didn't, because that'd be an easy cash grab. That if they do it like 2, it'd be money.
It would be.
Yeah.
Dang. So that kind of gives me an idea of what you grew up. It sounds like you did PS1. You were born in 85.
85.
What
yeah.
is the very first video game you ever saw?
Very first video game I ever saw? Here's the thing. We had an Atari.
You're the second person. I never saw Atari. You're the second one to bring it up.
We had an Atari. And I don't remember the game. I remember having that joystick, and that joystick just being absolute just garbage. I hated that controller. And literally about a year later, we got a Nintendo. So I did play Atari. I'm pretty sure I played Space Invaders. And there was some other game that was ski-related. That's all I remember.
But not a big memory. Just
not a big
of...
memory. My biggest memory was straight up, we had the Duck Hunt Mario combo.
Yes.
And here's the thing. That was like the first memory. But if it was the biggest memory with NES, it's Super Mario Brothers 3. That was because I got it for my 5th birthday, and I played the shit out of that. Like, I played it through, and I beat it level by level rather than doing the 2-flute cheat.
Yeah,
you
the
know?
2-flute. Yeah.
2-flute cheat. Everybody knows the 2-flute cheat.
Everybody knows that cheat.
I learned that after I beat it. Yeah. I was like, little me was super pissed off.
So that's interesting. I got an NES. I think it had been out for a year or two for Christmas. I did get the Duck Hunt thing. Mm-hmm. I do remember Mario. But you're the first, and most people bring up Mario 1. You're the first person to bring up Mario 3 as the main one.
That was the main one for me. And it's because, like, it was back in the day of like actual old school comic books with Nintendo's promos in it. And I remember seeing Mario 3. He had the Tanuki tail and everything. And even though we had the other games, I didn't actually play it that much. I didn't play the Nintendo much until I saw Mario 3.
Oh, so you had it but didn't really catch your interest.
Dude, no joke. I didn't become like a hardcore gamer probably until the SNES age.
Okay.
Like, so there were probably 3 games. Yeah, I can probably narrow it down
before you became all in.
There were 3 hardcore games that I played. It was Contra, Super Mario Brothers 3, and River City Ransom.
You're the first person to bring up River City Ransom.
That game is fucking amazing.
That game was awesome.
Oh my god!
Give me what's your favorite memory of that game that you can remember?
Okay, so we used to do you remember the cheat codes on River City Ransom?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you could actually like save your progress and you could input it back in, but there wasn't actually a save state in the game.
It was like a code or something.
It was a code.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like a regular like simple 5-digit code or shit, dude. Because literally, since so many different stats could be changed, it was like a 30-character. Uppercase, lowercase, special character, digit, and you had to write them down perfectly, but then you would save all your stats. You would save your name, you would save, your strength, your stamina, all that shit, right? So I had a notepad full of these different ones. And
all your save states.
Yeah, and I would have like 3 stars next to one, like this is the best one. And I had like one that's circled with crossed out, like this one's not good anymore. And me and my sister and my brother, like everybody were different, varying gamer levels in my family, but everybody played River City Ransom. It was weird. That was like the unifying game of all of them. Because we all played Contra, we all played the others, but that one, it was like, what are we going to do today? What are we going to do today? What game are we going to play? It was always River City Ransom. That game, and also, dude, the text at the bottom, did you ever play it? Like
I played it, but not. The problem is I know it's a beat 'em up like Double Dragon.
Yes, it's a beat 'em up.
But I'm getting it confused with Bad Dudes.
So River City Ransom, they had all the really square, blocky characters that were like 1 block or 2 block tall.
Yeah.
And they looked all super awkward. You had different gang factions. You had the frat guys, the squids, the mob, all these different, yeah, dude.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it was cool. But at the bottom, you had this running bar, black bar where you would have text pop up when you talk to people, right? But then also when you beat the shit out of somebody, they would have a dying line. And sometimes it was like, no way. But then like they would have barf. And they would be like, you got me again. And it was just the weirdest. Like, and just like 5-year-old, 6-year-old me fucking loved it. It was the bomb, and you got to carry weapons and you got to like boost these stats, and we learned all the secrets of it. And it was just one of those weird games that back before the internet, you learned by just playing through it over and over and over.
Trial and error.
Yeah, for real. It was dope though.
Yeah, I had a few other guests bring up the code, the save state for codes. Quite a few games use those, and they would have some of the booklets would have pages in the back for codes.
Yes.
But the problem is you'd run out. Really, there was not enough space.
Yeah. And also you had a bunch of shitty kids that would just like not save the booklets and that you'd lose them really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird that back in the day they would tell you to look at the booklet and I kind of miss that. Because that's part of like...
That's part of I remember the experience growing up. I would read the book. Anytime I got a new game, I wouldn't put it in until I read the book.
You do it first.
Yes.
Yeah. You'd flip through it. You'd be like, oh, these are the characters. Here's the root
story
storyline.
background. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's because during the 8-bit and 16-bit era, like, you didn't have a whole lot to work with story-wise. So they're like, here's the story of this game. Like, there was Life Force. Do you remember Life Force? It was like...
Life Force.
It was an airplane shooter one, not a side scroller, but it was a top down, and then it had a side scroller.
That's the one I was trying to. So I was bringing it up. I'm like, with a past guest, what's the one that was the airplane shooter with 2 different views?
Yeah,
it was Life Force.
Life Force, and you'd go through the rib cage of the monster going up, and then you'd have it up and down on a couple of them. Dude, that game was bomb. No storyline. Didn't know what was going on unless you had the booklet. Because if you didn't have that, you're like, oh, this world looks kind of metal. Oh, you're flying through a creature. You had no concept of what was going on without that. So, I mean,
I'm so glad you remembered that.
Oh my god, dude, that game was good too.
Because I was getting it mixed up with Master Blaster, which you had
the tank,
and then the top-down view.
Yeah, and you'd hop out and you'd die instantly if you touch. I actually hated Master Blaster.
It's a hard game.
Yeah, and here's
I never even got close to beating it.
Oh my god, like I loved being in the tank, but anytime I had to get out of the tank and you were like the little
tiny
guy, I hated it. But then when you would go into the areas where you were the big guy and you had the different blaster types, that was okay because that was kind of like the overhead.
But in between getting out of the tank, you'd have to walk to the door.
Oh my god, I didn't know that you had to fucking park close. So I was like, I was up here and I was like terraining down on my own, and you jump too far, you'd die or whatever, and you would get like eaten by anything. It was just fucking annoying, and I was just bad at those kind of games at that time. Now here's the thing. So. Like you've already done with your other guests, but what was your Nintendo experience? What was your game on that?
For Nintendo, man. Yeah. Well, normally we don't talk about me, but
oh goodness, am I that first guy?
Nintendo, okay. Mario. I remember Mario and Zelda, obviously.
Yeah.
Zelda, I remember breaking me. Just not. I could get to the first dungeon, but I didn't know what to do after that. I
Yeah.
didn't know, like, okay, now I got a boomerang and I got a piece of a life or the Triforce. Where do I go? I vaguely
now what?
remember getting the sword upgrade from the horse guy by the lake. You get like a brown sword.
Yeah.
I think it's the second sword. There's 4 in the game. Never came close to beating it.
Okay.
But I did Mario 3. Really, what I remember Darkwing Duck.
Darkwing Duck.
Darkwing Duck, because the cartoon was on.
Okay.
And
okay.
I remember going to Blockbuster, which that's a magical time too. I love Steam. My Steam library is so god awfully huge. It's amazing. But sometimes I miss the days of the limitation. You get to Blockbuster or Hollywood Video or Games Crazy, whatever, and there's
What was there?
Was what's there. Sometimes the game you want's gone. Then you had this like ritual of going through, reading the back of all the games, trying to decide. Your mom's like, "I'm only gonna let you rent one game this month.
Yeah.
And you can't fuck it up." So you had to make the right choice.
It was the worst when you didn't get it right.
And I got Darkwing Duck, and it was dope. And I'm like,
that's good.
Okay, yes,
that was
cool.
good. That was a good choice. Yeah, there's something that's missing in this day and age about that rental experience. What's weird is up where I live, there's still a video rental store.
How is it still in business?
It's called Top Hat, and no joke, their business has never been better. Because they're the only rental place. They do the same thing that you use to your
makes
old,
sense, I guess.
Yeah, dude, you walk in, it's got that video rental store smell. You know what I mean?
The smell. Yeah.
You walk in, and they have candy up by the register. They do like 3-day, 5-day rentals. They do game rentals. And I walked in, and I was like, what? That's crazy. And I'm like, this isn't ever going to do. My wife and my daughter love going there. I go there, and I'm like, I don't know about this. But then they're like, hey, it's $1 Blu-ray rentals, and you can get the entire Game of Thrones season. So you buy for $7 for a week. I'm like, cool, I can burn
binge.
through.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper than if I were to do it on Amazon.
It was cheaper than if you get an HBO subscription
yeah,
or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, shit, they kind of got something.
That's actually a good point.
But I asked them, I'm like, how is it? And they're like, no, actually, we've been doing better since the streaming service got rid of Blockbuster and our competition, because people still miss that element, though.
Yes.
So I can totally see that.
Dang. I wish we had one down here.
I'm not going to lie, it's dope. It's kind of cool having it right there.
I would love to take my kid and sort of recreate that experience.
It's going to be a lost thing. Like, I mean, if that ever goes out, like by me, like everywhere else, it's just going to be a thing that you're going to say, back in my day, we had to go do this. And I loved, like, Hollywood Video was just down the street from my house all through like junior high and high school, and that was my go-to place for gaming and movies.
Too. Go-to. You live by me. Was the Hollywood Video on 1600 North?
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, man.
And it had Games Crazy.
Oh my god,
next to it.
That Game Crazy was home for me. I used to do tournaments up there and all that shit. And that's the thing. Like, also, that was part of a community that people would be that they'd go to. Like, I would run into people that I knew at the games or at the video side or whatever. So that part's lost too. Like, in this day and age, with everything being accessible by the internet, there is that disconnect that you're going to have. Like, we used to play Halo all the time. All the time. And there is a different experience from playing online
versus LAN party.
Yeah, there's a huge difference. I mean, and that's always going to happen, because I remember we were up 3-4 in the morning still playing, and there was a different type of camaraderie. We had the same people playing Halo 3, but we were all in different areas and shit. And
it wasn't the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same. It's a bummer.
It's still good. It's just not the same.
Yeah. I mean, it's good that you can, because when Halo 3 or Halo Reach came out, my best friend had moved to Boston. And so we used to game all the time. We used to have at least once a week we would game. It was Big Nick. You remember
Big Nick? I remember Big Nick.
Yeah. And so, but he left. And I'm like, oh shit. But then that's when Xbox was really locked in, really done on the 360, and we'd play. We were able to watch movies together still, because they had that stupid Xbox theater on Netflix. Do you remember
I didn't even know that.
You could invite your avatars to watch the movie, and it was an overlay for Netflix. You would watch Netflix, but there was a little movie row in the front that you and your avatar would sit at.
And you guys could voice chat while you watch the movie?
Voice chat and watch.
That's badass.
And you had these stupid little emotes that you could get your character to do, like he would turn around and look at you guys, or he would like clap, or he'd stand up and stretch. And it was stupid, but it was like, I'm almost there with him. And that made a huge difference until he moved back, you know? So, I mean,
I could see that being almost like a more modern cherished memory. Like, I remember my friend just left, but we stayed connected through Xbox.
Yeah, man.
That's pretty cool.
That was literally, we still game, because now he's in Vegas, but that's how we catch up. I don't talk to him on the phone. We'll message on phones or whatever, like, you know, just texting back and forth. But our real catch up is like when we get on, we're playing Xbox Live, we're in a private chat. It's like, hey, man, so what's been going on?
Yeah.
And we shoot the shit for about an hour and a half or so before we go to a group chat, like a team chat or something, just so we can catch up with each other. So I mean, it's the same kind of vibe, or it's as close as we can simulate. But I still miss that LAN party.
You missed
man.
the LAN party.
Yeah, yeah.
But it sounds like you had that same. You liked the what's the word community experience because River City Ransom sounded like your whole family would get together and you guys would play games together.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sure, it was 2-player, but it was also fun to watch. And so it was like me, my sister, my brother primarily. Like, and it was just if we were gonna play a game together. Also, you weren't playing against each other. Realistically, I was better than my sister, and me and my brother
you
were
sexist pig.
Kind of,
You're saying women can't play games?
No, I'm saying that she was way smarter at school, and she had priorities. I didn't. Like I was just burning through that game almost every day.
Yeah.
But I mean, so she didn't want to play against me in anything. So if it was a co-op game, you're fighting against a separate adversary, which I still enjoy more than straight up team deathmatch or shooter games. I like playing through like Borderlands and stuff because it's like cool. We're going for a mutual goal. We're fighting against something else because it gets boring if it's unbalanced. If they're like even if I'm doing better, it's still boring if it's unbalanced. If there's not a challenge for me or if I'm getting my ass handed to me, it's not fun either.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's why that one was so popular. Same thing with Contra. You know, cause
it's true.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that you could play together, but it wasn't against each other.
Favorite gun in Contra?
Favorite gun, dude, spread,
of course. I mean, everybody says spread.
Come on.
I just wanted to make sure you're a legit Contra player.
Here's the thing. I wanted laser to be good.
It was cooler looking.
It was cooler looking.
Yes,
but it's like
it sucked.
It's like look at that high impact and that slow shot, and it's only that one spot that you're gonna hit.
Yeah,
that was balls. Spread was like. It's like the bumpers in bowling.
Yes.
Like you can just shoot and you're going to hit something, you know? So for any kid, and it's not even spread, it's shotgun. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But everyone's like, it's spread. It's spread.
Everyone calls it spread. Every time I've asked someone, I've had like 3 or 4 guests bring it up.
Yeah.
And I said, what's favorite gun? Everybody, spread.
Here's the thing. What's the worst one?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's not your default gun.
No, it's not your default gun.
There is a gun that I remember I would never get if I saw it. What was it?
I'll bet you I can tell you what it was.
What was it?
Fire. The one that did the circle like that. Was it that one? Because that one was ass unless you were trying to shoot something above you or below you and you didn't want to be in the trajectory of that bullet.
Yeah, so I remember using fire. There's
rapid fire, which was the same bullet that you start with, but it's just you can go as fast as you're going. Yeah.
Yeah. I used the fire one because on the second level or third, you climb up the waterfall.
And then you shoot the creature with the fire.
I remember using...
The only good, there's only a few good ones. But then, so you had rapid fire, you had fire, laser, spread, machine gun, which was the same bullet as spread, but it was just you held down the button and you ran with it, which was still effective. But then, was there any others?
Your memory's way better than mine. I think
Dude. I have a stupid memory when it comes to stuff like this. Like, I won't remember my college classes, but I'll remember this kind of shit forever.
That's good. So you went from really only 3 big games on NES, no Genesis. You guys went straight to SNES.
So we didn't have a Genesis. I used to rent the Genesis at, like, the Blockbuster. So I did play them in there.
I was the opposite. I played SNES, like, retroactively.
Okay.
When PS1 came out, I was into RPGs. And so I went back and got a SNES. It was cheap then and played through. But I was a Genesis kid growing up. So I want to know, what do you remember from renting the Genesis? What games?
Dude, I got a great list. Okay. Immortal Champions.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah, man.
I don't think it was called EGM, but whatever magazine I had back then, Immortal Champions had the dopest artwork.
Oh, my God.
The dopest artwork.
And it was like, I don't know if Mortal Kombat had come out yet, but it was like they had brutal finishers in that one too. But you had like Larson was like the detective guy. He'd shoot his grappling hook and he'd swing across and shit.
Your memory's so good.
Dude, I told you, man.
Who's the guy? There's a guy with the axe that I played with.
Oh, shit. I don't remember.
What's his name? He was my main.
Yeah, my main was Jax. He was a cyborg kickboxer and he would shoot his knee across.
Yes.
Yeah, man. But I just remember there was a mage guy, and you remember they had the taunts, and the mage guy, he would call you a simpleton. He would go like simpleton, and like it would apparently affect you. And I'm like, my brother used to do it to me just to piss me off. Like I didn't even know if it was doing anything to me, but like, stop calling me stupid. And he was like, that's what it means. I'm like, well, that's ass. But I just remember that. Yeah, man. So Immortal Champions, X-Men, Children of the Atom. Is that the one on Sega?
There is one on Sega that I played. It's side scroller, and you can pick between characters.
Oh no. So that's the first X-Men, and that one's shit. So
Whatever.
There's two of them.
That game, well, for me, that's
Are
all
you
I had.
talking about
I
the
loved
one
it.
where it just had the icons and you chose between Cyclops, Wolverine, Gambit, or Nightcrawler?
Yes.
That one's shit.
That's the one I played.
I'm telling you right now, you played the bad one.
Okay.
Okay? Because if you played the other one, you'd be like, oh my God, why did I miss this one? And I believe it's called Children of the Atom. And you can be Beast, you can be Psylocke, you can be Wolverine, and dude, the gameplay, they like pretty much ironed out all the gameplay because in the first one, you played in the Savage Land, right? You fought in the Savage Land.
I remember it ended on Magneto's base on the moon.
Asteroid M. Yeah. Yeah, man.
Jesus, your memory. It's so good.
Yeah, man. That was awesome. But remember, you had the guy who was flying around with the gun, and it was super cheap and bullshit.
I cheesed my way through that game because Nightcrawler's ability was to transport.
Yeah.
And I would basically not find keys. I would just teleport through walls.
Oh,
and
nice.
I figured out a way. I'm like, instead of learning how to play this game, I'm just going to figure out how to abuse Nightcrawler's power. I never beat it, but I did make it to the moon base, and I couldn't beat the moon base.
I could never beat the moon base. I got the same place you did, pretty much, probably. And dude, but that game was hard as shit.
It was so hard.
Yeah. And the other one, what's weird is about the other one is that you turned it on, and there was no intro. There's no title screen that you'd see on a regular Sega. You just literally you started, and depending on what direction you were pushing, I think on the directional pad, it would start you with a specific character. So if you were pushing up, it would start you with Psylocke, and just out of nowhere, you'd see Psylocke drop into this snowstorm, and you were like, "What?" There was no intro, no nothing. You knew that it was X-Men because of the cartridge cover. Yeah, and then you'd beat the first level, and then it would intro. It was like a movie, man.
That's kind of badass.
It was cool, but it was weird because you're expecting a Sega, you're expecting a title screen, you're expecting a push start. None of that shit. It just drops you in. It was weird. So yeah, so that X-Men, Immortal Champions. I don't know. I think I'll leave it at that. If I remember one, I'll bark it out.
Did you ever? So No, I haven't interviewed anyone so far that's been into Genesis. Mm-hmm. There was a game, I should look it up. You played as cyborgs and you could build your own, you could swap the arms and the legs out for different type of legs.
Was it Mech Warrior?
No, it wasn't Mech Warrior. It was I think it was called Cyborg Justice.
Man.
I played a lot of it, but...
Because I played Mech Warrior on the SNES.
No, it wasn't Mech Warrior. No. Dang it. I could talk about Sega. Let me try to think of some big games that I like that maybe you ran across. Did you play Vector Man?
Oh, dude, Vector Man. Do you remember the promo for Vector Man?
Oh, yes.
Where the first person to beat
because it was the Donkey Kong Country Killer.
Yeah,
it used the same graphic
which
style.
Totally didn't happen.
Totally did not happen.
That's okay. They tried.
Yeah,
it was a solid try. But no, that game was actually really fun.
That game was badass.
Obviously, here's the thing. Did you like the Sonic games?
Yeah.
I never got into them. Do you know why? Because when you get injured and you lose all the rings, yes, I get that was your health also, but I was pissed off that I'm like, fuck, I just barely collected all these. I'm not getting them back. They're disappearing. They're gone. I don't know.
You get some of them back.
Yeah, but I could never get past that in my brain.
It just bothered you.
Yeah, and also the movement of it. I'm like, I want to see all the level. I don't want to see this fast move. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to miss something, so I just could never get into them.
I've tried to retroactively go back and play Sonic, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
But as a kid, again, options were limited. So really, the only one I only beat one of them. That was Sonic 2, and I remember being blown away about the secret to turn into Golden Sonic.
There was a secret to turn into Golden
Sonic? And you
Sonic?
become like Superman. He turns into gold and he can fly and kill everything.
What?
Yeah, that I remember blowing my mind. It was that's my first memory of a secret in a game.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, there's secrets that you can get. Okay. And I didn't figure it out on my own. I got it from a magazine.
Well, that's how everybody got them.
Yeah.
It was either that or just the word of mouth.
Someone.
Yeah. It was just a legend told, and then you try it, and you're like, son of a bitch, it actually worked. That's how everybody got their information.
Keep talking. I got another guest coming.
Oh, here he is. Okay.
No, he's not here yet. He just wants my address.
So
after...
Go ahead.
Then you went to SNES?
So I went to SNES, and I had, of all things, Final Fantasy 2, which is Final Fantasy 4.
Okay.
That's actually the very first introduction for me into RPGs was Final Fantasy 2.
And were you a gamer at this point?
Yeah, I was locked in by then.
I was locked in.
Yeah, so I had that, Super Double Dragon, obviously Super Mario World. I didn't actually play the Legend of Zelda on that one. What was it called?
Interesting. Link to the Past.
I never played Link to the Past. Everyone told me I should, but that really, I just skipped past it. I don't know. And I played Mortal Kombat 2 and 3, NBA Tournament TE, or NBA Jam Tournament Edition.
Yeah.
That one you had to go, and Street Fighter 2 for sure.
Those were big ones. The interesting thing about Mortal Kombat, I've mentioned this on a past episode, is I was like getting shit for being a Genesis kid.
Yeah.
I think the SNES is better now in retrospect. And I kind of knew it as a kid, but I had saved all my money and got a Genesis.
Sure.
And one of the things I could say is, yeah, well, my motherfucking Mortal Kombat
Had
blood,
blood.
and you bitches got this watered down shit.
Yeah. And that still happened, like, into other generations future. Like, you would see stuff that was regulated one way or another. But, yeah, man, that was, like, the big one back in the day.
That was a big one back in the day.
But here's the thing. Sega, I think, took more risks and had more unique titles because that's just how all other companies are than Nintendo. Nintendo knows their hits. They're going to play those hits every single generation, which isn't bad. But it's like, up until, like, I would say the GameCube, you didn't see a lot of actual changes in, like, oh, here's some other up-and-coming like games and stuff.
Not a lot of risks on their IPs, because, like, Zelda 2 on the NES, people did not like the switcheroo.
Yeah.
And they went back to, even though you didn't play A Link to the Past, went back, and that did really, really well.
So what's funny is that the only Legend of Zelda that I played was Legend of Zelda
2, whatever.
Yeah,
Link's Awakening.
That one was the one that I played. So I thought that all Legend of Zeldas were side scrollers. I didn't know that they weren't.
That's like almost a black sheep in the series.
It's like the garbage title of them. And I was like, no, that's kind of fun. They're like, how far did you get? I'm like, not far. I didn't. No, it was hard as shit.
Yeah.
But it was like, that was my experience with it. So when I went and I was playing, like, I did play a little bit the SNES, but I didn't ever get into it. I was like, this
didn't catch you.
No, it felt so different. And so I didn't actually get into Legend of Zelda until Twilight Princess, and then I worked my way back.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm just weird.
Twilight Princess was your first.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's like, because I saw Ocarina, I saw Majora, everyone was playing them, but I didn't play them. So yeah. Like,
interesting. But you had played Final Fantasy 2, so you started getting into JRPG. Did you beat it?
Yes. But I did it with help. Like, I got lost a few times, and I had my buddy who had played through it a bunch of times. He was like, no, you got to go here. No, you got to get this. He even knew the secrets, like, oh, here's where you can get Excalibur. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And and that one, like, is literally like an offshoot random, one of those areas in Square games where you're going down a dark path where there's black on either side and you only see the walkway, but if you know where to turn, there's a
secret path.
Yeah, it was one of those bullshit ones. And I was like, holy fuck. And it was like, I think it was on the moon, because you go to the moon.
You end at the moon. Yeah.
You end at the moon, you take the whale to the moon, all the weird JRPG
People who haven't played this, they'd be like, what?
Yeah. Well, it's even weird.
JRPGs are weird.
Yeah, it's even weirder when like, oh, well, you get the whale by them praying to the whale. He comes out, but he's actually a machine, and he takes you to the moon, and you fight Flan and Jellos up in the moon. And when you say that, it sounds dumb, but if you play the game, it totally makes sense.
It's awesome.
Totally makes sense.
That game blew my mind because the class change felt really...
That was only 3.
The Cecil, whatever.
Oh,
he changed his paladin.
Oh, the paladin
and it's like... They did that in Final Fantasy 1, but I didn't play Final Fantasy 1. Your fighter becomes a knight and your thief becomes a ninja, but I didn't play Final Fantasy 1.
And also that evolution it wasn't as important, like, in the gameplay, like, story-wise, as in Final Fantasy 2, there's the whole
It was
arc.
tied to his story,
Yeah, his whole arc of him going from a Dark Knight to a Paladin, and you're fighting your old self and stuff. That was like...
It was pretty dope.
That was big for the day. You know, like, in gaming storytelling, that was pretty fucking big.
And I played that game in retrospect, so you had to have been pretty young.
I was 10.
That's a hard game to beat as a 10-year-old.
Like I said, I had help. It took a while, and I had help. You know, because it was like any JRPG or any RPGs, they're hard to get through. Like, actually, so my daughter, she's 10. My wife helped her get through Final Fantasy 15. She went through and burned through that. I'm like, that's crazy that she could do that at 10, because I'm like, that would have blown my mind, and I don't feel like I would have been able to achieve that at her age. You know?
We don't talk about Final Fantasy 15.
Do you not like 15?
We don't.
You don't like
we don't talk about Final Fantasy 15.
We, as a collective of Cade, don't like 15.
The world that I'm just greatly disappointed in that game. I've rapped on this in other episodes, but
I'm excited to hear it again then, because I'm going to
we can skip a little bit. So because I was so wrapped up into the hype for that game when it was originally announced as Versus 13, and it was Final Fantasy like Fabulous, Nova, Crystalis, whatever, and it was going to be
Versus Fabuloso Chrysalis, whatever.
Something
blah, blah,
like
blah.
that. And it was going to be 13 verses, and Final Fantasy Agito, which ended up being some weird mobile bullshit game.
Yeah.
And then I played Final Fantasy. I got Final Fantasy 15 on launch.
Okay.
I liked it enough to play through it. I really liked listening to the classic music in the car when you unlocked.
That's dope.
I liked that. I liked the battle system was fun. And the story was I beat it. It was like, okay, there were some cool lore elements, but it felt really disjointed and not fleshed out. And then I had a good friend who was on the podcast last week, John Jimenez, who's also a huge Final Fantasy nerd. He showed me some stuff that was leaked on NeoGAF about the original scope.
Oh, it's just going to bum you out if you hear that shit.
It ruined my life after what it was supposed. And you could see the remnants of what they were originally going for versus
it's a smaller, sadder version of what they were trying to go for.
Yes, and because what's his face Tabata, I think they brought him on to the game was in trouble development. They got rid of the director. They brought in Tabata. Yeah. He came in and basically had this crazy deadline to hit. That's why when you get to the train, all of a sudden the game just is like cutscenes and then it ends. You remember that? You get to the train.
I didn't finish it.
Okay,
but that's okay. I saw it play through, but I think that for people who have followed it from the get-go, you're going to be bummed out.
Yeah.
Like, for sure. Because they hyped it. Dude, it was, 10 years in, development
I think
hell?
it was 13 years total.
Yeah, that's a long-ass time. And you could tell that it was a patchwork of different things.
It's a patchwork game.
Yeah, they tried to pretty much tie it all together. And I could totally see them going, here's the scope we wanted, here's the scope we can do. And that sucks, But I think that as it being an introductory Final Fantasy for a new style
for
and a new generation, I can see that as it's kind of like Final Fantasy Light. It's a nice way to kind of get into it because that's going to be the same kind of battle system kind of that they're going to have for 7.
Yes. And I think 15 did well financially.
Yeah.
Which means
it did really well.
I think it did really well. Speaking of 7, it kind of makes me worried though because 7 they fired the original developer and started from scratch again. So it's that same troubled development thing. I don't know
what's going to happen. Yeah. Oh, well, what's weird is that you've got them trying to pump out this new stuff, and it seems to get locked up. And I don't know why they push so hard on mobile. Well, I mean, in Asia, it makes sense.
Cash grab.
It makes sense in Asia why they'd want the mobile, but them trying to, it just seems there's so much focus on that. And then the true stuff that, the stuff that they really, their bread and butter for so many years, I feel like it's kind of back burner now. It kind of sucks. I've actually really loved the remakes. I mean, my Final Fantasy X love and they're doing 12. They're looking.
We'll get to 10 as well.
Oh, we damn well better. We damn well better, good sir. Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. I feel like it's weird that every single new iteration that they're trying to do, it seems like it's just barrier after barrier.
Yeah.
They keep on hitting these stops, and it's hard because 7 people were hyped for it when they first saw the beginning, and then they're like, it's chapter based, and that made people lose their goddamn mind, which I don't have a problem with personally, because I'm the kind of person that waits until the chapters are all released. I buy the collection and I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that because I liked Life is Strange, The Walking Dead, all that kind of shit. It worked fine for me, and I had a great experience. But people who were like, oh, I can't wait for the next episode, I'm like, well, that's your damn problem. But also, they said that they're supposed to be one full-size game per chapter for 7. So they're saying...
Yeah, I heard that it's just going to be Midgar section, and it's going to be 60 hours.
Yeah,
just
that's crazy.
Which is insane. If it's that fleshed out, I'm cool with chapters.
Yeah.
But how long is it going to take for us to do the whole game?
Sure.
I don't know. Is it going to be one of those like PS5...
PS6,
PS4,
PS7.
PS5, and PS6?
Yeah.
What's going to happen here?
Yeah, because I do wonder if they're putting that much into just the first chapter, how many chapters? Is it going to be more like game sequels? Is it going to be like the same kind of development time you saw between Uncharted 1, 2, 3, and 4? Because honestly, what if they do wrap it up really nicely in between them all? Say Midgar level ends when Section 7 collapses.
Yeah.
That'd be a good ending point, and then them going to be continued from there.
Yeah.
That'd be a good point to end it, and then you can give them a couple years and build out a whole nother 60-hour. I wouldn't mind that.
I wouldn't mind it either. If it's done right, I think I'm all right with that.
But Square Enix hasn't been really good about doing it right. So I think I can see why people have apprehension, for sure.
But you got into Final Fantasy 2.
So 2.
What other JRPGs did you play on SNES?
Secret of Mana was PS, right?
No, that's SNES. Secret of Mana.
Yeah. So I played that, and I played Chrono Trigger.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's my second greatest JRPG.
Okay,
in my
here's the
opinion.
thing. I didn't finish it as a kid. I got like maybe 10 hours in, and I loved the gameplay. I don't remember why. I think it's because I traded up to a PlayStation at the time. I don't remember. But then I went back and played it, and dude, that thing still holds up.
Really well.
Really well.
Really well.
Because I have trouble going back to older systems, older than PS2, GameCube, Xbox generation, just because it's just too fucking clunky sometimes. So I'm very selective about older games, but I went back and played that, and I'm like, this is still solid.
Really solid.
Really solid.
Soundtrack is probably the best RPG soundtrack. It's up
I would
there.
argue it's the best on that generation.
Yeah.
Across the board.
What moment of that game sticks out to you the most?
Honestly, like I said, I didn't get too far into it, so that one I probably wouldn't
Even
have
when you replayed it, what sticks out to you?
Honestly, it's just weird how in that time of gaming, they were able to flesh out just the time traveling part so much. And that part to me, like just the entire idea that they went through that. Because I mean, if you see it in modern day gaming, you kind of expect a solid story. You kind of expect that kind of immersion. But that was that weird point between really good, solid storytelling, I feel like, on the PlayStation generation and the 64 generation, and then the weird, rickety, look at the back of the booklet of NES. And the fact that they were able to do that much in that time, because even comparing to like Final Fantasy II, the story is really not that solid. There's some
Chrono Trigger is way better.
Yeah, 100%. Because like you have some compelling moments in too, whereas Chrono Trigger as a whole is
the whole
good
thing,
with a few moments that drag a little bit.
Yeah,
if that. But like I said, I only got like 10 hours in at the time, and then I went back. I'm like, damn, this is good. But I mean, even then, we only had a Super Nintendo. And I only rented Sega for a while, and then we immediately bumped up as soon as I could to PlayStation and 64.
Okay, so before we jump to PlayStation, because I consider PlayStation my glory days, my favorite console.
Really?
So, yeah.
I thought PS2 would be yours. Okay.
No, PS1 was my glory days. So I'm sure we have a lot to talk about. Is there anything else on Super Nintendo that sticks out to you? Really good memories?
Super Nintendo. Honestly, I think that was the first time that you started seeing arcades actually have a run for their money. I think that was the biggest time that you finally saw, because when they had Street Fighter in the arcade and you had Street Fighter 2 as well at home, I think that was the first time they started blurring that line. Because I remember playing Street Fighter 2 in the arcade, and I'm like, this is awesome. And then my buddy had it at his house. I'm like, this is the same thing to me. And I didn't have to pump in a bunch of quarters, and I was able to play it. And that's something that I remember. I remember us looking and playing games at the arcade and going, "Oh man, I wish we could play this here."
We could play.
And it finally started happening. That's a memory that I remember, because we burned through Street Fighter. We rented it, of all things, because my friend had it, and after we were not friends for some stupid reason, I was like, "Cool, I want to play it." And me and my other friend, we burned through it pretty much until the next morning. And it's not a game that has that high of a replay value, but it was just the fact that we aren't burning quarters. We're just able to play through. Let's get as far as we can. All that kind of shit. That was a really awesome memory too. And NBA Jam, anytime you went on fire, you got to play as the mascots. All that kind of shit was amazing too.
NBA Jam was awesome. I remember I always plays Jazz, because that was during the heyday when Stockton and Malone. We actually made it to the finals.
Yeah.
And it was into basketball.
Yeah, you had Jordan and Pippen.
Jordan and Pippen.
Yeah, I remember. And you could play as Bill Clinton.
You could play
as Bill Clinton. Yeah. You could play as the mascot. You could play as the Hornet. You could play as the Bull, I think. And then you could play as Bill Clinton for some reason. It's just weird what they got away with at the time, too. Like, that was just weird. And you had big head mode. No, that came later, didn't it? Big head mode?
All those sort of arcadey sports games run together for me. NBA Jam, Wayne Gretzky, NFL Blitz. That was like a 90s sort of... They don't do those games anymore.
No. Like, all of those went out with the PS2 era. They had a few cycles, and they were gone. Yeah, man. It was kind of a weird area. Anyway, so that's probably what I got for the Super Nintendo.
So then you got PS1.
Yeah, I traded up to a PS1 of all things. Like, I went back and forth all through the generations. It's kind of weird. Yeah, but the PS1, my first experience with that was Nightmare Creatures and Resident Evil 2. And I was fucking 10. It was weird that, like, how I played through, like, that stuff. And Final Fantasy 8 and 7 on PS1.
So did you do 8 first, then 7?
I did 8 first.
You were the second person that did.
I did 8 first, and I liked it better than 7.
I like 8 too more than 7. People give me shit for
really?
it. Yeah.
I thought that you liked 7 more.
No, I like 8. I get a lot of shit for it.
Why?
I know we disagree on 10, but I liked 8 more.
Okay, do you want to know what's funny? So I did Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10 prints, and I have people buy them all the time, like as a set, because they can be done as a triptych or whatever.
Yeah.
But my best-selling one is 8.
I think there might. I know 7. I know 7 is. I've used this analogy before. I really like Nirvana. They're not my favorite band, but they introduced a lot of people to grunge, and they're iconic because of that.
Yes.
But out of that whole era, there are other grunge artists that I think are better than Nirvana.
100.
But
Perfect
they're not.
analogy.
But they're not Nirvana. They're not like
Yeah.
the early. What'd you call it? The pioneers.
Yeah, sure.
7's that way. 7 has this like greatest of all time status for JRPG nerds. It's probably one of the. It brought people who weren't into JRPGs into JRPGs.
Yeah.
But I think 8's better.
Yeah. So, also, it was the first one in the Final Fantasy franchise that did the 3-dimensional,
Yes,
and the polygonal shapes and everything. And that's why also a lot of people gravitated towards it, because it was the new graphics with the PlayStation. It was one of those things that's like, wow, this has never been told this way. But the story itself,
I think the story's okay.
It's okay, but it's not captivating. Whereas, as much as I thought 8 was amazing to me, and I think it's because you saw full, although slightly elongated, full-size human figures.
Yeah, we've talked about this. I hated on 7, even though I played 7 first.
Yeah.
Because I followed the pre-hype for that. I don't know if you remember. It was originally the Nintendo PlayStation.
Yes.
Was going to, and that was in magazines. They were talking about it. The Nintendo and Sony split, and then there was a tech demo. They released footage for Final Fantasy for the Nintendo PlayStation, and it was still going to be on Nintendo, because Nintendo and Final Fantasy were peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
And then they came out and like, we're moving to PlayStation. There was this huge blah blah blah, and it was in the magazines. I remember talking to homies about it.
Yeah.
I pre-ordered it. And yes, the pre-rendered backgrounds, the opening scene, all blew me away. But I remember immediately thinking, why does my guy look like a fucking little, like, dweeb on the world map? But in the battle screen, he looks badass.
Yeah, you wanted the battle screen.
I wanted that
the entire time.
Yes.
If he was that the entire time, I feel like that would have turned the tide between the two. But when you see Squall, and he's a full-on figure.
Yes.
He's not this Lego
chibi character.
Yeah, he's not this Lego looking fucker. Because I mean, that's the thing. The cinematic, you saw like the green glowing in front of Aerith, and you saw the train come in.
Yeah.
And it goes straight from the CG train
to the pre-rendered background.
Like, shit, it's gonna get good. And then you finally see the fucking Roblox guys come out. I'm like, what?
And I can see if you played 8 first, like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Why does this look so lame?
Yeah, straight up. Like I went from this is gonna be dope to like my gamer boner just. Whoa, I was super sad after that. And really, like 8 captivated you from the jump in my mind. It was a lot to take in at first, because you end up injured and you wake up and everything, and it's like you're just walking around this campus trying to figure out, and you have to fucking take a test, and you're like talking, and you're kind of gathering some shit here and there. Whereas 7 kind of like introduced you a little bit easier, but I just felt so much more connected. I think because that human form and everything. I don't know, but yeah, because you're right. 7 was the first one that suddenly like, oh, we're gonna do this.
This is the new.
Yeah, this is the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the next level. But when I was like, yeah, but these are the issues. You're right. It's going to be that Trailblazer, but I don't think it's the best one personally.
But you beat both of them.
Beat both of them.
So what's your favorite moment of 8 that sticks out the most?
You know what? So after you actually defeat Idea, and then she suddenly like becomes this calm, whatever.
Yes.
And then you can start exploring around. Like that's kind of like to me, I should say that's when I started exploring around, because after that you have Ragnarok already, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember going, and for some reason, is it Garden of Eden? Is that the Guardian Force?
Oh, Eden. There is a Guardian Force. Eden. Yeah.
Getting that, like, because it was just this weird level. Like one thing that I always did with Final Fantasy, and I still do, I just fucking go and explore areas. Like, if you look at the map and you're like, oh, there's a little cove here, but there's nothing near there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to go look in there. And so I remember just coming across this, and I was like, oh, shit. Like, okay, there's this entire side thing that technically isn't part of the game that you can get to. That part was awesome. It was a hard fight for me at the time. The Doom Train. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest Guardian Force. It's not that powerful, but I loved it. And also you had Diablos.
He was my favorite.
He was cool. And that was the first time that I liked Ifrit. because he was just like mean badass, and he's the first one that you get as Squall.
Yeah,
you
the first
and you
one,
do your test with Quistis. Oh yeah, like so. I remember connecting with the Guardian Forces, and the first time that the summoning characters really kind of connected with me in a 3D world. Because I mean, 2 you had cool ones too, but like getting a new Guardian Force was always
exciting because what's the summon going to look like?
Yeah.
What's the animation going to be?
The Brotherhood one with the 2 brothers.
The 2 brothers.
Yeah, the 2 brothers. Alexander, the big machine
like
one.
holy machine castle thing.
Like they always had really fucking cool summons. I mean, I remember my buddy showing me before I played 7. I watched him play a little bit. He's like, "You got to watch the Knights of the Round."
Yeah.
And I was like, "This isn't blocky shit. I don't care about this." But then I saw Diablos' one where he does the entire thing. He does that cool magic and he shoots it down.
Yeah.
Like, it was fucking cool for the time.
Badass.
Oh my god! I remember getting Guardian Forces and then going to my friends. I'm like, dude, you got to come over to my house and just watch the summons.
Just watch, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't care if you hang out after that. I just want to show you Quetzalcoatl's summon.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking cool. And I had friends come over and like, yeah, that is cool. All right, we're gonna do anything else. I'm like, nah, bye. Like I just want to show them that because that's when you started seeing really cool animation stuff that way. You know, I like that. So yeah.
The only thing I didn't like about 8, even though it's probably my favorite as far as just nostalgia and cherished memories playing.
Draw system.
The draw system. A lot of people
I hated that.
A lot of people hated it, but I kind of have a weird I like to grind in games sometimes. I like to grind depending.
Then that wouldn't affect you at all.
That wouldn't affect me because I liked it. The reward of I finally got 99 of this spell, then I attach it to whatever stat,
and you see your stat
to see the stat jump, and it was like it was worth it. All those hours was worth it. But the problem is I didn't understand when I first played 8. I got it at launch as well. I didn't really understand how that works, and you can break yourself in that game if you grind and level up without having the correct things junctioned. Then what you have junctioned and the spells you have also affect what you get during a level up.
Yeah.
And so if you grind with bad junctioning, you have no stats. And I got really far into the game where you go to space and get the Ragnarok.
Yep.
And I couldn't beat any bosses, and I couldn't grind and get any levels.
Yeah, because you had shit junction.
I basically ruined it. But I went back and played it later in high school. Do you remember the GX TVs with the speakers? Those gaming TVs they marketed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
holy shit.
And the speakers folded over the screen, and it pulled it out.
It was such a gimmick, but it
gimmick,
totally sold everyone. I was sold on it. If I had the money.
They said it made the graphics better. It didn't. I think it had a CRT filter or something on the screen to smooth things. But I played through 8 a little bit older, and I'd already played through all of them. And then this time I was older to understand the story a little bit better. But I hated towards the end of the game after you first what's her name Edea the witch, and then she's actually being controlled by Ultimisia, the time wizard or time witch girl, and then you find out all of your party members went to an orphanage together, but somehow none of them remember it.
Yeah, that part it's what a coincidence.
What a coinky dink.
Yeah. Oh,
we all forgot, but we've
been chilling for 40 hours of gameplay together, and I never went like, hey, did we live together once at some point in time or another?
Yeah, that threw me for a loop.
Yeah, and that's like I said, that's that weird time where storytelling was almost there,
not quite.
You see stuff and you're like, okay, you took it out of me. All right, fuck that noise.
But the end when you beat the final boss and she compresses time and you're in
that time
that
battle?
idea of just what time looked like if it was all compressed, and then they had the anime. I'm like, this is the concept of time travel. Making time all in one. I had never thought about those type of concepts. Really cool.
So it kind of fucked her with your head.
Yeah.
And you know what? Their interpretation was pretty cool. The folding of time and stuff. It was a cool idea, and I felt like it translated pretty well. That was a cool ending. I remember that fight, and I was like, all right, I'm pretty jazzed for this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, have you ever gotten into a boss battle and you're like, I'm just not feeling it. I don't want to grind through this noise or whatever. I remember playing through that one, and I was like, all right, okay, cool. We're fucking with time. Let's fight through this shit. I'm down. And I really liked that fight. That fight was dope.
She was cool. I thought her castle at the end, it was,
the castle was a bit balls. I didn't like the castle.
It was it was a hard final dungeon, a little annoying.
It was a weird hodgepodge dungeon. Like, that's what that felt like to me.
Do you remember the fucking, the little guy with the knife?
Toneberries.
Toneberry. I hated those dudes.
Yeah, I love them as just the fact that they're always like a feature in each of the games.
Yeah.
But I always hated encountering them in almost every single version of the game. Every single Final Fantasy, every single time you see one, you're like, ah, fuck.
I don't want to. Yeah, damn it.
Them and Cactuars, because you're like,
Yeah.
it's high XP, but you're gonna fucking run away because I'm too slow, and it's gonna piss me off. Those two, like the fact that they're staples, it's cool. It's like chocobos, but it's not necessarily like you want to show up with them. You know.
I remember there was one of the ultimate weapons you had to grind toneberries to get like the 5% drop.
Yeah,
and I remember getting that ultimate weapon and grinding the toneberry that's. More than the draw system, I remember that being like, this is ridiculous. I just want to get this stupid item. I'm so sick of fighting them over and over.
You're more completionist than I am.
Always completionist.
I am not. So if it's like I'll stumble across, very rarely do I have a game that I'm like, I'll burn through all of it. I'll do all of it. Most of the time, I'm pretty casual when it comes to the gaming. I want to have the experience. If I run into something that's kind of like, oh, this is an option, I'll totally do it, but I won't outwardly go for it. But I can totally see where you being a completionist, you probably have such a different view on games than I do.
For all the RPGs on PS1, definitely completionist.
My God, dude. And those ones were hard.
There's a lot of
Emerald Weapon, Ruby Weapon on Final Fantasy VII were balls. Those guys, I didn't even play it. I watched my buddy go through it, and I was like, fuck that.
Breeding a golden chocobo
oh my God.
to get Knights of the Round is so goddamn ridiculous.
Yeah.
Especially as a little kid. There was internet out, but hardcore Mormon family, I wasn't allowed to have internet.
Yeah, because all the porn's there.
Dude, no porn thing. Which, ironically, my dad tried internet for like 2 weeks. And what is the first thing I did? I looked up boobs.
Well,
so what can you?
Technically, your parents were right.
They were right.
Yeah, they knew this was coming. That's
jokes
like never
on
again.
Jokes on them. I got a Dreamcast later just for the internet connection and just for the titties.
Totally worked. It totally worked. Yeah. So I remember watching my buddy, and this was older. Like this was a later time. I was 14. He was 17. He was telling me about it. He's like, yeah, here you got to get a golden chocobo to get this and this. And he would just update me periodically, and I'd be like, hey man, so what are you up to? He's like, I'm still fucking breeding this shit. I'm still trying to get this going through. And I'm like, that's too much work, man.
So much work.
So much work.
If you know the actual formula, you can do it pretty quick. But to figure it out so... Yeah.
So I remember it shouldn't have been this hard, but like I said, like you're saying, in the day and age where you might have not had access to the internet, and also the internet was in its infancy.
It wasn't as fleshed out as it is today.
It wasn't as accurate or anything. So even if you did stumble upon information, it would still be wrong. Silent Hill, the piano piece where you have to play with the bloody fingerprints, and there's just a hint of like the pictures talking about the black crow and the white dove or whatever. Like if you didn't write it out and you didn't see the keys, like I had to literally pen and paper, draw out the picture. Here's the keys. And then I had to go through and label them because it was too fucking difficult, man.
That game, but I'm glad you brought that up. So that's the game you played on PS1.
Oh yeah.
That game was the first time I felt like, the story was cool and it fleshed out the idea of hell and demons. And because of a religious upbringing, it's like taboo. You're not supposed to, because at least with me growing up, Mormon, like the idea was if you talk about demons and stuff, that you'll attract them.
Yeah.
And so there was like this, I'm not supposed to be playing this game. But I thought the story was so creepy.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest, because I don't want to ruin it. Well, it's like a 30-year-old game.
Yeah, this isn't a game that came out a month ago.
The end when you're sacrificing the girl and the whole ritual and that whole idea.
Yeah.
And the reincarnation of the ancient demon.
Which is a big fucking moth. Right?
Yeah.
That was kind of weird.
That's a little weird.
It's an ancient demon. What is it? It's a moth. Like that to me, it's for such a fucking scary game to end on a moth. An ugly butterfly.
That's a good point.
Like that's the thing, because it like the carnival Ferris wheel when you're fighting the cop, and do you remember the girl cop who saves you?
Yes, I do remember her.
Yeah, and she's like shooting at you, and like if you get the vial of stuff, you can save her. The vial of goop. You have to have a jar. You have to get the vial, or you have to kill her. I think it's like those two options, right? And so if you don't get the vial, you have to fight her. And I remember, like, it's scary to fight her because, like, you got the Ferris wheel running around. She's following you. She's firing at you. And when you had the gun, you could kind of, but she would just show up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Scare the shit out of you. But no, that game, the duality of
the world would shift.
That was awesome. And when you first play for the first time, you don't get what's going on. Like you hear the static noise, and you're like, what's going on? And then suddenly you're in like this cagey looking rusted hell. And you're like, what the fuck? I'm just looking for my kid. What happened? I remember we were playing, and this was before the cheat where if you put a gun in the second player, you can get a blaster with unlimited bullets.
I didn't know that. I never knew that.
If you get a gun, like any of the light guns, so if you get that and you plug it into player 2 on a PS1, you would get a laser blaster that you could use on all the creatures. It didn't have it had about the same damage as a pistol, but it was unlimited ammo. But you couldn't use it on the end boss battles. But even before I knew about that, it was me and my buddy. We were playing it, and we were burning through it, and we were terrified. And he was like, you play through this area, I'll play through that area. And what it was is that he's like, you go through the school, and I'll go through the clock tower. And I was like, okay, cool. So I was finishing up the school, scared the shit out of me. I hated it. I'm like, cool, your turn. Fuck you. And the clock tower, nothing happens. You pick up the ball and you run it down the drain or down the gutter.
I do vaguely remember a clock tower.
Yeah, man. And nothing happened. I was so pissed. I was working my balls off, and he just got the easiest part. Yeah, man. Like I said, I remember all that shit.
I'm surprised both our parents let us play that game.
Oh, no. Like, my mom, very light touch parenting. Not to any of her fault. She was working all the time, so she was like, what game do you want to play? And we'd go rent one, or I'd just buy one. This is before, like, really anybody started cracking down on ESRB.
ESRB was out, but there was no, like, they wouldn't sell it to you.
There was no regulation.
Yeah, there's no regulation.
And I went to Blockbuster at age 10 with my mom. I grabbed Resident Evil 2, and I'm like, this looks cool. You know, like they had that cool, scary cover with the claw, like the claw scratching.
And the eye. Yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, give me this. And she looked at it, she's like, okay. And then Blockbuster guy didn't say shit, and I went home like, holy fuck, why am I playing this? That game was scary as shit.
My parents were anal. I remember because on Genesis, Streets of Rage 1 and 2 I beat.
Streets of Rage
we kind of skipped. Those
good.
are awesome. So good. Streets of Rage 3 came out, and the ESRB rating system had come out, and it was rated teen for 13 and up, and I was 12 or 11. And they wouldn't let it get They wouldn't let me get it. And I was at Macy's, 1200 North and Orem. They had a little games shop in Macy's on the right-hand side.
Oh, yeah.
And they wouldn't let me get it. And I'm like, Mom, I already have the first 2 games.
They're right here.
They're
this
already
is just
here.
a sequel.
But I bought them when there was no ESRB.
Yeah.
Well, she looked at them like, well, now they're rated teen, and she took the games away.
What?
So not only did I get
You lost them all?
Streets of Rage 3, she took all of the Streets away. Anything that I had gotten that was now teen, she took away.
But here's the thing. Was a rating on the first 2?
No, but the new printed versions were rated.
Oh, dang,
so
dude.
that they had like Streets of Rage 1 and 2 at the store, and now they had the rating on it, even though mine didn't have an ESRB rating on it.
Dude, she did you dirty.
She did me dirty.
You got robbed, man.
Yeah.
Boy, was Streets of Rage 3 the one where you could play the skating kid?
The kid with rollerblades.
Rollerblades?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
I went
man.
back and played it on emulator and beat it. So I got to play it eventually.
Honestly, I know a lot of people are split about emulators, but that's how I play my old games now.
Yeah, well, how else?
I mean, it's
unless there's a good
beautiful.
virtual like the Switch though. Some games I'll get on Switch.
If you want, sure, and I totally get that. But also, I mean, I may have all my NES and everything.
I have everything. On
yeah,
emulator.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because if I want to go and find it, and then Nintendo may have it, but it may be $20, and I'm like, I just want to play this for a night. I just want to have that nostalgia kick and just go with it. Yeah, Streets of Rage. Oh man,
good stuff.
So many good.
What
things.
What other games on? Because PS1 is it's like something like 6,500 games.
Giant library.
Yeah.
Twisted Metal 2.
Ooh.
Twisted Metal 3.
First one to bring up Twisted Metal.
4. Yeah, Twisted Metal 2 was my first introduction. You could get it on the UFO.
Yes.
And everything. But my favorite was 4, where they turned them into micro machine cars.
I never played that one.
Okay, Twisted Metal 4. Instead of it was a little more lighthearted. And they're like, okay, now you're like, you're a Matchbox car. Still the same characters, right? But instead, you're like, it's almost like Toy Story. You're like playing in a kid's room and you can go up random ramps and stuff, right? But also, it was the first one that I think that you could put into a CD player, and the entire soundtrack was done by Rob Zombie. It was dumb but awesome.
That is cool.
I remember taking my Twisted Metal 4 game to school, and I'm like, I'm listening to Rob Zombie, but it's a video game too. And it was really fucking cool. And Rob Zombie was a playable character on it.
How did I didn't even know there was a Twisted Metal 4.
Go back and play it. Go back and play it. It was dope. It came out at the end of the generation. It
came
out
it
at the
had
end
to
of the
be
cycle.
close to the end.
It was like 1999, 2000. So right about the time the PS2 was coming out. So yeah, but dude, that one, it was solid gameplay. It was fun. It had cool boosts, but just the fact that you could throw the game in and play the soundtrack, which I think the other ones you could too.
I think it was quite a few games that did that on PlayStation. I remember, I don't know if it's Twisted Metal 1 or 2. It might be all of them. This might be the theme. But there's a guy named Calypso that runs it.
Calypso runs it on every single one.
And he grants your wish.
Yep, and it's always twisting your wish.
Twisting
into
your wish.
bad.
And I remember playing, it probably was 1 or 2, playing through all of them. And I remember I remember being so angry that the cop guy wanted to live in a world of peace and no violence.
Yeah.
So he sent him to space. He just banishes him to space.
Yeah.
No, there's no violence out here.
Because it's just you, and you're just alone.
It's just you. And I remember the idea of who's Calypso? Why does he have the power to?
He runs the game. He runs all of Twisted
How
Metal.
does he grant wishes? And
He's
why
magic.
Is he doing a tournament?
This is the story. This is the age of no stories and everything. So
well, it's the whole any game that's based around someone organizes a tournament. How do we get all these people to get together and fight? Same thing with Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
I don't think Street Fighter's actually.
Street Fighter was just like, hey, let's travel to another country and kick each other's ass.
Yeah.
They had no real I feel like there was some sort of premise that maybe was in a booklet, but it really was just trying to be the best.
Yeah. Who's the best martial artist?
Yeah. So what was weird is that M. Bison was originally supposed to be called Who's the Boxers?
Balrog. No, Balrog was later. No, was he Street Fighter 2?
He was Street Fighter 2.
Okay.
He might have been in the Championship Edition or whatever.
Or Turbo or whatever.
But M. Bison was originally supposed to be Balrog's name. Mike Tyson, M. Bison.
Oh,
yeah.
I know that Balrog was
patterned
after.
Yeah, he was patterned after M. Tyson or Mike Tyson, and to protect the game, they gave M. Bison the name because M. Bison, Mike Tyson. Yeah. So they switched him. So he was supposed to be called M. Bison, the boxer, and then Balrog was supposed to be the end character. But they were like,
that makes total sense. I just saw a headline that Mike Tyson didn't know Balrog was patterned after him.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah,
and then he came out and he was like, this is dope. I never knew that I had a video game character.
I kind of got robbed, but it is what it is.
I kind of got robbed.
Yeah. I mean, no, that was it's weird.
Did you watch the Street Fighter 2 animation?
No, I didn't. I heard it's good.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
I heard it's good.
It's so good.
It's kind of a mixed bag when it's after a video game because I watched the Devil May Cry anime and I
haven't watched that. Not good.
It's okay. It's okay. It's not anything to write home about. So I'll give that one a shot if it's good.
I mean, this came out in the 90s and I've watched it a few times in my late 20s, not recently. I thought it held up well. But as a kid, there wasn't a lot of action to that anime stylized action.
Yeah.
There was Dragon Ball Z. Sunday mornings I'd wake up and watch, and Pokemon. But Pokemon was more kiddie. But I remember, you could rent. There's another thing with my parents being, you could rent those anime movies from Blockbuster or Hollywood Video.
Yeah.
And they weren't rated usually.
Yeah.
And I had rented Street Fighter 2, and I thought it was awesome. And I think my dad saw a few scenes and didn't care. But then I rented Ninja Scroll. I don't know if you've seen Ninja Scroll.
I've heard of it, but
very
I haven't.
cult classic anime.
Yeah.
Well, there's a scene where a dude basically starts to rape a girl, but she's like a poison specialist, and she's been dosing herself with low amounts of poison her whole life, and her job is to protect the king. So everything the king eats, she tastes
has
first
it.
to make sure. Well, this demon starts raping her, and it sucks on her boobs.
And her milk or whatever.
And it ends up poisoning him, and that's how she survives. And my dad walked down while this dude was like
titty sucking. Yeah.
Anyway, he never let me rent another animation movie from Blockbuster again.
He's
because he thought I knew. I was like, no, I just looked cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I'd seen Street Fighter 2. I didn't know anime could be like that mature.
Yeah. You're like, I'd rent again, 100%.
Yes, I would definitely rent, but I didn't premeditate.
I didn't know in the beginning, but now I know. I kind of okay with this.
And I was like, but I was going to use that to masturbate.
Yeah, it's I was really close, and then you showed up. It was really weird. No, I mean, that's the thing. Especially back in the day, dude, it was a turkey shoot, man. You didn't know what you were getting when you would rent something like that.
No.
Yeah, because, I remember Gundam. I had, my brother served in Japan. And,
so you got hooked up.
So he sent a TurboGrafx 16 before any of those graphics were ever that level with the Who cards and everything.
Yeah.
But then also he sent a bunch of movies, and they were a bunch of Gundam movies. I'm like, that's awesome, cool. But then he sent another one, and it was the same thing. I'm like, not ready for that.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, and
cartoons can do this.
Yeah.
I've never seen cartoons do this.
I'm like, that's different. Yeah, and my mom same thing. She's like, what the hell are you watching? I'm like, I don't know. Eric sent it to me. I don't think he knew what it was either. And yeah, same thing happened. So I get you, man. I get you.
On PS1, so did you play? I know you played 9. We could talk about 9.
Yep.
But what other? Man, there's so many games. What are like the top 3 biggest games besides the Final Fantasies you can think of?
Okay, hang on. Because Tekken 3.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I mean, dude, that was like, once again, when you had the arcade experience at home.
At home.
You know, I mean, that one was like, it was just next level.
Who's your main character?
Eddie at the beginning.
Eddie,
everybody
was going to be
Eddie at the
Eddie.
beginning, but Law was my go-to.
Law's my favorite.
Law's the bomb.
You could do my favorite combo was you could do the all short, fast, like straight jabs.
Yep.
Then you could do the cartwheel kick, and you could juggle 3 times with the cartwheel kick.
And then you go back to the uppercuts
Yes.
after. Yeah, man.
Yeah, that was a great
got you.
combo.
But then also, Gon, the Dino. The
Oh,
little
yeah.
Dino, Gon. Yeah, I would play him as well. He had that stupid rolling move that he would go after people.
That was annoying.
Yeah.
I-
that was
yeah.
the first one that had a game in it too, right? Because you had the Tekken ball that you could hit back and forth. And what it was that it was like a blue or red ball, and you would do power moves. You kick it towards somebody, and if they didn't kick it back, if they didn't kick
I
it
do
at the right
remember
timing,
that.
yeah, man.
Wow, man,
That-
your memory is bringing back more memories.
All
Did you play Ridge Racer?
No, I did a little bit. I played Wave Racer more than Ridge Racer, but I played a little bit. But then they also didn't they have Cruisin' on? No, that was 64. They had
Cruisin' was on
USA.
64.
Yeah,
Ridge
yeah.
Racer had Galaga during the loading screen, which I thought was cool.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
played Galaga. Speaking of Wave Racer, I brought this up before, but I remember we're going into 64 territory. But I had played Jet Moto on PlayStation 1, which was cool. And I'm like, then when I saw Wave Racer, I was like, okay, Jet Moto's water can suck my dick.
Yeah.
Wave Racer, this
Yeah.
is water. This looks like real water. It feels like real water. The physics and the buoyancy,
You're
blew
bouncing
my
up and down.
mind.
Okay, back to PS1.
Yes.
Metal Gear Solid.
Ooh!
My
Woo!
goodness. Okay, so I remember playing that, and my buddy had it first, and he's like, "Hey, come over, you got to see this game." And I'm like, "Okay." And he was right at the Sniper Wolf level, and he was fighting Sniper Wolf
During the big long
Yeah.
kind of canyon
yeah,
thing.
and you're actually doing the sniper shots
Yeah.
at her and everything. And I was like, dude, what the fuck are you playing? And he's like, dude, this is a game, you got to jump on it. And I remember borrowing it from him, but I borrowed just the disc. And
Just
you know
the
how-
first disc?
Yeah, and you remember how they tell you to look on the back of the case?
Oh, and you can't get the frequency to save. Yeah.
I was sitting there, I'm like, what does he mean? What does he mean? So I'm calling him at like 9:30 at night. It's a school, and I'm like, Brooks, what do I do? I'm like, I need that code. He's like, what code? I'm like,
you can't
"It's-
save.
It's on the back of the disc, man. I don't know what to do. And he's like, oh. And he's like, oh, yeah, you got to do this. And then he's like, oh, and when you get to the box, make sure a wolf pees on it. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, when you get to the box, make sure a wolf pees on it. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, go get there. It's fine. and use cigarettes when you're sniping. I'm like, oh, my God, what is all this stuff you're talking about? Dude, that game was next level shit.
Next level.
Next level. So amazing. Like that and the Psycho Mantis battle.
Oh, dude.
Oh, my God.
So we've talked about Suikoden before, right?
Yes,
And how it's my
yes.
favorite. I was already knee deep into Suikoden, in my opinion, the best JRPG ever. When you get to Psycho Mantis, I didn't know how it worked, but he reads the memory card.
Yeah,
and
any
he starts
Konami
talking to
games.
me about Suikoden, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I got freaked out. Like, is this like a real demon?
Yeah.
What?
Like, what is he doing?
How is this possible?
Yeah.
That freaked me out. That was
Yeah.
amazing. And then you have to pull the controller out.
Yeah. Because like you fight him and he knows all of your moves. You're like, I can't get a leg up in this battle, and you couldn't. Like you didn't know what the fuck to do. And then it changed to the blue screen.
Yes.
I remember when the blue screen came up. I'm like,
The game crashed?
No. I knew my TV well enough. I'm like, what do I do? I'm like, what do I do? This isn't happening. And then it went back. Oh my God, what do I do? 'Cause, like, but that was the first game. Like I felt like fucked with the player. Like head gamed it. You know.
It is. I can't think of another game. Eternal Darkness did it on 64.
But no, that was GameCube.
That was GameCube. That was
came
way
after,
later.
and
Yeah,
that was amazing. That's one of
Yeah.
my favorite games from the GameCube era. Eternal Darkness is a bomb.
That might have been I can't think of a game earlier that had any sort
Dude,
of.
Kojima knew what he was doing, man. That was crazy.
I was just thinking, how did he come up with that game back? How was
LSD? I don't know. But I mean, even the entire story arc and like just everything about it. I love the art style from the character styling and the art direction as well. Like that watercolor kind of light heart and everything. Oh my god, I loved all of it.
The communication screens? I like the art style, like how their mouse moved.
Yeah,
the story.
It was very anime based, like vibe, and it was awesome. Did you ever call in? What's her name? What was her name? The girl who was your receiver, like that you would save with. What was her name?
Mei Ling.
Maylin?
I think it's Mei Ling.
Yeah. Did you ever call into her too many times? She got frustrated and she stopped talking to you?
No, but I thought you flirt with her a little bit.
So you flirt with her at the beginning, right? But what you can do is that if you're calling into her to save, and you keep on calling her and you don't save, she's like, "What can I do for you, Snake? What can I do for you? What can I do for you?" She's like, and then eventually, she gets annoyed with you, and when you call in, she doesn't say anything. It's just dot. She looks mad, and I'm like, I didn't know that, so I was like, hey, I'm just gonna keep on. Oh my god, just those little things, man.
You already brought it up, but the cigarettes and sniping, that touch was amazing. The wolf, the pee on the wolf box, whatever.
Yeah,
wolf
the pee on the box. Yeah, all that shit. It was weird, the stuff that they came up with, man. And then like the idea of you can take the guy, you can hide his body. You can take the guy, stuff him somewhere, right? That kind of shit.
Or they could follow their footprints in the snow.
And then when like suddenly you have this cone of vision, that blew my mind. I never thought of that in that mindset. But like, yeah, he wouldn't ever be able to see behind him to interact with you. So you followed the cone of vision and use that as your stealth. So many good game mechanics.
That game is the sticks out to me. I think the scene that sticks out to me the most is right before you get introduced to what his name is. Fox, the ninja, Gray Fox, who's the ninja.
Yeah.
I think it's Gray Fox. I forget what the name of the cyborg ninja.
Oh my god.
But you go down the hallway and everyone's skewered and there's blood. Yeah. And then you see like the little bit of camouflage kind of move and has that effect. To this day, even though that game is old and blocky, it's one of the few PS1 games that visually I can still play.
Dude, it's cinematic. It's cinematic as fuck. Like
so good.
That one, and that's the thing. The way they did the storytelling outside of the gameplay, like it was straight out of a really good tactical espionage action movie. Like you said, like that specific scene where you walk in and you just see the massacre, and you see it's like a pan across, like it's cinematically shot, timed wise. That was awesome. And then when you're like going through the vents and stuff, and then you see that viewpoint, and he's like checking different areas. Dude, that's awesome.
That game. We were talking about it. Like, because there was nothing like it at the time. There was nothing that Kojima could have built upon. I mean, obviously he got inspiration. I know that Snake's character is inspired from Escape from L.A., whatever, Kurt Russell.
Yeah, Snake. He's also called Snake.
He's now Snake.
Yeah.
You can see some of where he pulled inspiration from, but as the mechanics, the way the cutscenes work, the way the game played, there was nothing to build from. That was all game-wise. Probably one of the most original. Like when I played that, I remember thinking games are at a different level now.
Yeah, and
this is something totally different.
So that game specifically was the game that I was like, holy shit, PlayStation is doing something completely different. This was when 64 was still doing like kind of kid stuff. 64 was out, right? I think it was already out.
Yeah.
But like 64 was more family, kid oriented. Like, you had the very cartoonish, and it didn't have that kind of depth, right? Whereas you saw a very strong divide between 64 fans and PlayStation fans. Like, people like, you play PlayStations for the story, you play 64 for the team games and the kid games. And I remember, like, holy shit, this is what they're doing. Because you had Silent Hill, you had Resident Evil, you had Metal Gear Solid, you had JRPGs, you had action games, all that kind of stuff. You had a lot of story-driven games. And then you had 64 where it's like, me and three of my best buds are going to burn through the night and play something crazy, And that it was definitely a strong divide on how you would purchase too. Like, I mean, PlayStation, you'd see teenagers and adults buying, but you would never see them buy 64 on purpose unless they were playing like GoldenEye.
Yeah,
So it was interesting. It was cool.
What other games on PS1 stick out?
Oh man.
So you played 9. Talk to me about 9.
Honestly, 9's I liked 9 a lot. I felt like 9 had the best mix of battle, like combat mechanics between 7, 8, and 9. I felt like that one, the only thing I didn't like was that your break would just randomly show up.
Yeah, you couldn't.
You couldn't control it.
You couldn't control the break.
You couldn't control the break. Like, that bothered me. But I liked the storyline. I liked that they went back to, like, medieval magic and mages.
Crystals and all that.
Yeah. I liked that, actually. I thought Zidane's character was boring, but that's okay. Steiner was a great story arc, and Vivi's story arc, man, on that.
You're the third person. Everyone brings up Vivi. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I think he's my favorite character.
I mean, well, just like that story arc is one of the most powerful story arcs, I think, in Square Enix's storylines, because not very many do they have that kind. But also in 9, they did a lot of that kind of like kind of darker storyline arc overall, because Zidane had the same thing. Like at the very end, like the end of his third act is him just moping around, going, "What the fuck do I do?" Like he has a total identity crisis. So
Vivi's whole story is identity crisis too. Like, what does it mean? Am I just a product, or am I an actual, not human, but am I an actual like living being?
Yeah.
And it was the first time I started thinking about that as myself, which I don't know how old I was, 15, 14. You're old enough to start thinking about that concept. So I remember thinking about him like, well, if he was produced in a factory like the Black Mages, but he's something different.
But he has his own sentient mind.
He's like, what does that make him? I'm like, well, then what does it mean for me to be a human? What's the difference?
What separates you from everybody else?
Yeah, it's the first time I started thinking about those ideas.
It was cool to also watch because Vivi and Zidane's storylines are kind of the same, except for they're flipped.
They flip, yeah.
Yeah, and so you see Zidane being this very independent, strong, unique person.
He's got it all figured out in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. And Vivi, who's completely lost, doesn't know what to do and feels very manufactured. And then they switch. And so seeing that turn between the two of them.
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
It's unique. Yeah, it was a cool thing to watch. I mean, and honestly, I didn't get that fully until I played it much later on. Like, I was like, oh, cool. Each person has their own storyline. But when I played it again later, I'm like, oh, okay. So while Zidane's trying to help Vivi figure out who he is, Zidane loses himself at the same time.
Yep.
So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool for its time. I hated Q.
The cooking dude? I did not like him either.
Yeah, just boring.
Lame-ass character.
And it was a shitty way to do the blue magic.
Yeah.
I hated it. It was bad.
I
Because
did like the dude with the red dreadlocks. He had the claw.
Oh, yeah. What was his name? He came in like halfway through the
He was
second
pretty
act.
late. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember his name.
What is his name?
But he was a thief as well. And he was super quiet.
He was really quiet, kind of the loner, mysterious.
Yeah.
He was cool. The Dragonlance girl, Freya, I think. Freya was pretty dope.
Freya was tough. It was cool. Her story arc where she loses her entire civilization to that fight, essentially. Yeah, that kind of shit was cool. But yeah, Q or whatever. I remember going, cool. It's a blue magic character, so you just gotta absorb all of the enemies to get the cool stats, right? But then every single time you do, it's too high a level for me to eat. I'm like, well, then what the fuck are you doing here? Get out of here! It shouldn't be this hard for me to get you to learn to move.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah, no, seriously. There's a reason why. Like, I feel like it's one of the worst examples of a blue mage character. Like, I mean, it's not done very well in any of the games. I feel like it's a very weak point in the Final Fantasy games. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, but 9 was good. Overall, I liked it. I liked the additional mechanics. Like, every single game has additional mechanics. Think about the train on 8.
Yeah.
Where you're walking across a train. And then, this one you had the play where you had to fight each other, and then you have different mechanics. Like, all those little mini game things I think are fun. 9 had good ones. I didn't like Try Monster, whatever card game.
I like the 8 card game, Triple Triad. I didn't like the
But that was Final Fantasy 8, right?
Yeah, that was 8.
That one worked way better than 9's. 9's, it was okay, but even if you had the right stats on your side, the randomizer on it was too crazy for me. Even when I felt like, I'm like, this is a solid win, suddenly all these cards would be switched. I'm like, well, all right, fuck me, that didn't work. I hated it.
Did you play Legend of Dragoon?
Yes.
Oh
my. Okay. Actually, I'm playing through it again on my Vita.
Right now?
Right now.
That game, does it hold up well? I remember loving it, but I've only played it the one time.
Okay. The gameplay, like the combat mechanics, where
it's like a quick time, like rhythm.
Dude, still fun, still engaging. The storyline, It didn't age well, like most PS1 games. The animations when you transform into a dragoon, still cool. The button mashing for like certain boosts and stuff works okay, but overall it's pretty fun. Like I'm enjoying it so far. I'm about 20 hours in.
I
Yeah.
do remember. So obviously, Aerith was the first like big game death that actually was permanent. I remember being exposed to. But the guy that's
Lambert,
the
green dragon.
the green guy, he ends
Yeah.
up dying, gets replaced, and I remember that
Yeah.
being like, he's dead. He's actually dead.
Yeah,
Dead.
yeah, like he's gone.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, what's weird is that Eris didn't really hit me that hard.
Really.
I think it's because
You played 8 already. I guess.
I played 8, but I mean, I didn't have that same connection as most people to 7. I think that's why. And also Tifa was my girl from the jump.
She's way hotter.
And also, she had a badass overdrive, man.
Yeah.
Like, that overdrive was awesome. I loved her overdrive. So I was like, all right, well, can I have a weak-ass healer or a badass brawler?
Yeah.
I'm going to pick the brawler, you know? So, yeah, Lambert, his was hard.
Yeah, Legend of Dragoon, I remember loving it because it kind of had that Power Rangers feel.
Yeah.
Like they turn into the dragon armor, and then as you level up and you raise your dragon armor would get bigger. Your animations
You'd have
would get
cooler attacks
Yeah.
and stuff. Parasite Eve 1 and 2.
Ooh,
Money.
First one to bring up those.
Dude.
Those
yeah.
were weird, freaky games for me as a kid.
Yeah. But I did learn that mitochondria are very important, and if they evolve,
You
we're going
learned
to be in
some
trouble.
science.
Yeah, some like really bad, poorly constructed science. But yes, I remember so on my Vita, dude, it's just a retro machine. Like, I don't play any modern Vita games, but that is like probably the best retro machine you can get. Honestly, I recommend anybody buy a Vita, hack it, and then mod it, and then literally there's your PlayStation library in a handheld you can take anywhere. And everything plays natively smoothly, and then you can throw anything else on there.
Yeah.
But so I have on there Silent Hill 1, I have Legend of Dragoon, Parasite Eve 1 and 2, Final Fantasy 8, and then I've got Final Fantasy 10 on there. I've got Final Fantasy Tactics on there. So pretty much it sits by my bedside, and when I can't sleep, I toss that on.
Yeah.
That's my go-to. So, yeah, man. Parasite Eve 1 and 2 is awesome. And that's what I have on there, too. And Harvest Moon is on there, of all things.
Harvest Moon was on PlayStation?
Yeah, man. They have
Again, that must be
PlayStation.
getting confused. There's another. Maybe I'm getting confused with Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing came out on
is a
64
Nintendo.
in Japan, and GameCube was the first release internationally. So, but Harvest Moon was like an iteration before. It's the same kind of idea, but you inherit your father's or grandfather's farm, and you have to do that. My wife was addicted to Harvest Moon 64, but I got it on PlayStation and I tried it. It's fun. I mean, it's a farming simulator, and that's not usually my go-to, but Animal Crossing fucks my shit up. I love that game.
What other PS1 games stick out?
Shit. PS1, I don't know if I got any more off the top of my head. If I have one, I'll call it out. But I mean, also PS1 was the first one that suddenly like there's multiple discs. This thing spans. It's like a gigantic thing. Like when they did the remake of Final Fantasy IV and they attached it to Chrono
Yes.
Trigger.
What was that called? Final Fantasy Anthology?
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
it had Chrono Trigger.
That one was a dope
Yes.
combo, but that came in super late in
Yeah.
that generation, because that generation was like the first generation. They're like, hey, we're gonna keep on producing for this one, but we're also gonna release a PS2, you know. And so Nightmare Creatures, that was another one on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about it. Because I remember Nightmare Creatures fucked my shit up. That was pretty much it. Yeah.
That was crazy. So but it sounds like during that time you got a 64.
Yeah, dude. I switched back and forth a lot. So I traded my PlayStation to my buddy for a 64. And I got GoldenEye, Gauntlet.
Ooh, Gauntlet.
Yeah, Gauntlet 64. Which
First one to bring that. Again, arcade back to the home.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And that one was cool because there was a lot of unlockable stuff. Not unlockable, but just like a lot of stuff you could do with it. Because you could get all the keys, you could get all the like was it the tomes that you could get? Little like things. And it was just fun because you had different classes. Everybody could be a warrior or they could be a mage or whatever. That one was good. Jet Force Gemini.
Ooh,
That one was good.
That one's come up a bunch.
Yeah, Resident Evil 2 on that. I played it on both of them.
Yes, and I played on both, but the 64 version I liked the most. I thought it was a better
Yeah, I felt like it was weird to get into it, but once you did, I thought it was good. Doom 64.
Yeah, I remember Doom 64. I was reading, I had EGM for sure at this point, and I remember them showing screenshots before it came out, and the big selling point was when you got up close to the sprites, they weren't pixelated.
But
They were, but they weren't pixelated at the time.
Less pixelated.
The same way Doom was,
Yeah,
because they had like kind of like a filter over them.
There was like a shading of some sort. Shit.
That I just remember thinking like, oh, the 60, and it was all like you said. It's one of the few more adult games that came out on 64.
Yeah, you know another one, Turok and Turok 2. Seeds of Blood, Seeds of Evil. Yeah, man. Those ones where you had like all those weird guns.
The guns.
The burrower one where you'd shoot it, it would go into the ground, and then it would go up the person, burrow through their skull, and they would just shake, and then their head would explode. Best fucking gun ever.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. I remember playing Turok, and I'm like, this is pretty gory, but I'm technically fucking up dinosaurs. It's fine.
It's fine.
They're not
some humans in there.
Yeah, eventually there are humans, but you're first fighting those weird half dinosaur, half human. But also, do you remember the multiplayer on Turok?
I never played multiplayer on Turok.
Oh, dude, you could do 4-player, just like GoldenEye, right? But then you could also do ones where it was everybody has a gun and is fighting, but you're a monkey that's super fast and they're trying to kill you. So you're literally just this monkey. And you're running around trying to avoid everyone else who has a gun. And it was like a timer-based one. Like, could you survive? Whoever survived the longest. And it would switch to another random person.
I didn't even know that. That might be, because we've talked about asymmetrical multiplayer games on other episodes. And someone brought up, like, Halo. You could be a zombie on one of the Halos, which I never played. Like, Halo 3, I think.
Yeah.
I'm like,
and that's
that
when they
might
started
be the
with
first asymmetrical multiplayer game, because like Evolve came out and you'd have like these games where one person's a monster and then you have
Evolve.
Ugh. I got that launch, but
dude, I did too. And then it died so fast.
But I didn't know that in Turok, so that might now be the earliest memory, because you have it's where you have asymmetrical, meaning the monkey can't kill anyone, but he's really fast.
Yeah. And that, I remember that one. Like that might have been one of the first ones. Because, Evolve, in my heart, that sucked. Because I got it launched too, and then nobody played it.
I got Evolve because I went to E3. I went to E3 3 years, and one of the years is when right before Evolve came out, and their E3 showing was amazing.
Yeah.
The hype was amazing. They had the monster, probably like a 25, 30-foot recreation of the monster standing. I waited in line to play it. I ran into like some famous journalists, like Jason Schreier. What's the guy, Brian Crescenti?
Yeah.
And like talked to them, and I'm like, oh, the Evolve's going to be awesome. And I bought it when it came out, and it just, for some reason, didn't stick.
It was a great idea. The idea was cool, but I feel like the execution of it, dude, it was just too repetitive, man. Like, even when they started coming out with new monsters, nobody cared by then. Like, because it's cool, I'm the monster. But then, like, even at launch, people already had it locked in. You can't be the monster. Like, there's an easy way to defeat the monster if we get to him by this point.
If we get to him before he gets too powered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So everyone knew just from the jump, instead of us going to get boosts or setting traps or whatever, just rush him. And if we can get to him before he can get to level 2 or 3, we got him. And literally that was just the game mechanic.
Whole game.
And so it was a great idea. I feel like kind of poorly executed, but that's too far ahead. 64. 64, besides Turok, GoldenEye, obviously. GoldenEye and Mario 64 were like bread and butter.
What's your best GoldenEye multiplayer story, like craziest thing that happened?
Okay, so I remember playing with a kid, and he did the dual controller movement. Did you ever see that? So the different types of controller abilities, right? So he did the dual controller movement on single player. And I remember trying to simulate that by switching to, because you had like 5 different controllers options, right? So you had the one where you can move around left and right, and then you use the C stick.
The C stick, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had the one where C stick was actually the movement, and then you were able to aim with that one. I actually had a competition one time, because my buddy's like, don't move with the joystick, move with the C buttons, and then use the joystick to aim, you'll get faster, because it did make you faster. And I remember we had a competition that was done through our church ward, and it was actually GoldenEye of all things, because that was the big thing. They were trying to connect with the kids,
Yeah.
But they were like, cool, if you can do this, then we'll actually, whoever wins, There'll actually be a money pot plus like we'll throw in a church T-shirt or some shit. And I remember specifically going through, and I remember I was like, I'm getting that money so I can get Resident Evil 2. That was the goal. And dude, I cleaned house. I remember like it wasn't even like fun anymore. I was that asshole kid who was so good that people were like,
it wasn't even a competition.
Yeah, and it was at the stake center. It was at the church center, and everybody's like lined up, and I'm just sitting there being this asshole. And dude, no, I cleaned up, and from that church fund, I was able to buy Resident Evil 2. Yeah, that was probably my best one. But then also just all the late nights, man. That was like the go-to party game. It was. That one, Smash Bros, the very first one. That was the first time that you saw like Mario being kind of a dick and like it being kind of like not like heavy, but just like, wow, it's just a fighting game.
And it was a completely different formula for a fighting game.
And it was brilliant.
It was brilliant. Now that formula has been copied a little bit with some other games, but really the Smash formula is still just the Smash formula.
Yeah, I mean, you had PlayStation All-Stars, which was a fun game.
Which was fun. There's a Turtles game that had the similar TMT something.
They have a few of them, but you have to have a solid roster. And honestly, them getting so many characters from different areas, I think really sold it. And then every single time they had a sequel, they just added more and more to that roster. And now it's just this behemoth, you know. It's crazy. But yeah, I remember playing Smash for the first time. And also, the single player was interesting. They had all those different levels where you had to hit...
I never did the single player.
What?
I'm not in Smash. I never actually... That's one of the weird ones where people say I never played 7. I never owned Smash on 64. I just played at a friend's casually.
Okay. So there was actually, like, to unlock characters, you'd do single player. But also, they had, like, things where... I remember playing with Pikachu, and you had this specific obstacle course for Pikachu. So it's boost, because Pikachu can do that lightning move, right?
Yeah.
So they had ones where it's like you have to hit targets, and you're trying to hit the targets and hit all of them around this obstacle course before the time runs out. And each one is a little bit different. But I remember Pikachu specifically, you had to use a lightning move to move in this direction. And you couldn't get past this one area without using his specialty move. And they had all different types of ones like that.
For each character?
Yeah, for each character. And it made it interesting. And they had different boosts. And then you had Mario and Metal Mario and all these other ones. I mean, it was a cool game. And it was one of those ones, like a lot of fighting games don't have a lot of interest outside of just the fighting mechanic. But I think it had a lot of variety. And they had the trophies before trophies were a thing.
That's true.
You could collect all the figures.
That might be the first... that might be the first trophies.
Yeah, like you could collect trophies. When you unlocked a character, you unlocked a trophy with it and stuff. I mean...
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Because I don't remember trophies until like... not even the Xbox, maybe 360. You start getting trophies.
Yeah. I mean...
for like achievements in games.
Yeah, I mean, but those were like official. They're attached to a gamer score. But before that... I can't remember a game before that.
That might be the first trophies.
Yeah, man.
What else on 64?
64? That's a good question, man.
64 seems to be a little bit more common. People bring up 64 Mario, Smash, Ocarina of Time, which you didn't play.
I didn't play Ocarina or Majora's Mask, so I can nix those. Yeah.
Those are the big three. Jet Force Gemini has come up. Star Fox 64 comes up.
Okay, I did play Star Fox. That was actually one of the first games I owned. And I remember beating it in like 4 hours.
It's kind of short.
It's so short. I remember like people like, you got to get Star Fox. I didn't realize you had to get it for multiplayer. Most of my childhood, it was like just me playing video games after a certain age. And so I always like, that's why I'm probably more attracted towards character, solo style games, RPG, stuff like that. And so I remember getting that and I was like, cool, I'm going to play this all the time. And then I'm like, I'm going to have this big long storyline. And I beat it the first night and I'm like, well, shit. Because I'm like, I have friends come over maybe one day a week, and I'm like, and this game wasn't good enough for me to play again. So I immediately traded it with a buddy to get a different game. I can't remember what I got, but it sucked even worse. Oh, I remember what it was. It was fucking Superman 64.
That is...
Oh, I got the worst trade deal ever.
Lauded as one of the worst video games ever created.
100%. And I traded for it. Because I was like, I like Superman the show. This will be dope. I got robbed.
That game sucks really bad.
It was unplayable. Like, at least at my game
I
level.
rented it and I took it back. I didn't even, because you get 3 days or 5 days.
Oh yeah, it was like 3 days.
I took it back before my time was up. Like that's
it's
how much.
So bad I don't even want it in the house anymore. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was bad. Oh, going back. Okay, I'm only gonna do this once. Go back to the SNES. Maximum Carnage. Spider-Man, that game was fucking dope.
Yes.
That was like the best solid beat 'em up for Marvel on SNES for sure.
No one's brought that up. I remember that because Carnage was a scarier version of Venom.
Yeah.
It's like an actual killer
Yeah,
that got
yeah.
the symbiote and...
Yeah, his name was like Cassidy, something Cassidy. And
Cassidy, yeah.
He's a serial killer, and then the symbiote attracted to
it's
him.
different than the Venom symbiote.
Yeah, because Venom was attracted to the Flash, and he was,
Gordon something.
Yeah. Brock, Gordon Brock, but they call him Flash Gordon, whatever. And so he was attracted, like Venom attracted to him, but he wasn't like inherently evil most of the time. But Carnage was the first character. They're like, holy shit, he's murdering people.
He's evil.
And even that was when Venom actually teamed up with Spider-Man to stop him. So Maximum Carnage was dope.
Oh, that makes me... Did you play... I don't think it was on SNES, but on Genesis, Splatterhouse.
Oh, yeah.
Splatterhouse.
That game was
Scary as shit. So I don't remember if it was... I know there was 3 Splatterhouses.
Yes.
I don't remember which one I got. They're all the same. You get possessed by this mask.
Then you're saving your girlfriend.
And you save the girl.
You're trying to save your girlfriend.
And you go into this haunted house. Well, I think it's 3, and you don't save the girl. The very first level, you get to the end boss, and the end boss is for the level is in this room with like broken up bodies, arms and limbs and torsos, and it's eating people, and
What?
it's eating your wife. Like
What?
you don't save her. And he you see him rip her body in half and bite her head and this.
Oh my God.
And I remember just being like, what? And then the rest of the game, the mask tells you someone created these demons and it's a revenge game.
So you're just there to just fuck
To
shit
revenge.
up. Okay.
And as you get farther into the game, the mask possesses you more and it talks to you. So every time you beat a level, you go up the stairs. Like you're doing a tower, I think.
Yeah.
You go up the stairs.
It's a tower one.
And the mask talks to you. And the farther you get, the more you realize the mask isn't there to help you either. It's using you.
It's trying to get something out of you too.
And that game freaked me out.
Okay, I remember specifically, you're a hulking 300.
Well, you can,
dude,
yeah.
And you're this big ass dude, but it was still scary.
Yeah.
That was one of the most graphic games for the time.
Definitely.
And I just remember, I may be this big badass wrestling looking guy, but it was still scary. But you got cool weapons, you got machetes, you got chainsaw shit. It was cool, but it was a scary game. The theme as a whole in every single iteration of it was pretty fucked up, actually.
It is. That's what I'm saying. I think about. Man, you're possessed by a demon mask who's taking your soul, but you don't care because you just want to get revenge on your wife being eaten alive. It's insane.
You say it out loud, man, that's dark.
That's some dark stuff, but it's all pixelated graphics. So I guess, yeah.
It's that's right next to Sonic 2 on. That's weird.
Sonic or Splatterhouse?
And once again, that was before ESRB.
Yeah.
Some kid's oh, hockey, and he just walks out with it.
Yeah.
It was really a turkey shoot back then.
So you went to 64,
64,
and then you went to PS2.
And then, I went to PS2. So weird story. Somehow, I was dating a girl older than me when PS2 came out, and she bought it for me. And the very first 2 games I got with it were Jak and Daxter and Final Fantasy X.
So it had been out for a little bit.
It had been out for a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
I got those 2, and Jak and Daxter is still my favorite 3D platformers. That game is smooth today, even as it was back in the day. The remaster is literally, it's just a remaster. It's just a new skin. It's just HD graphics. Still a solid game. Anything from Naughty Dog though is.
I never played Jak and Daxter. People get mad at me for that.
If you ever want to play a good platformer, I'm talking same level as Mario and stuff. Dude, that one is smooth as shit. It is amazing. But that and Final Fantasy X, given.
I knew this was going to come up.
It's gonna happen.
So do you still consider it the greatest Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
Oof.
It's there, man. It's there. 'Cause here's the thing. Which one do you think is better? Give me an
8.
8 is better?
Yeah. Because there's no fucking Titus
Okay.
that's dressed in fucking overalls with one strap off.
Even marketed it as Lederhosen.
Really? So
Yeah.
I like to talk shit on 10. I played 10 and I was blown away. Obviously, it was another leap in graphics.
Voicing for the first
The voicing was for the first time. I was blown away that there was voices, but even when I played it, some of the voice, even though I was younger, was a little cheesy. But his voice, I know people say Titus's voice pisses him off. I didn't think that till I played it again later. When I first played it, I didn't care, but I hated that I didn't think the main character was cool. I thought.
But that wasn't the first time the main character wasn't cool.
Look, Cloud's pretty cool. Squall's pretty cool. Zidane's pretty cool.
Okay, you want to go further back though? You want to go further back there?
Cecil's pretty cool.
Bart's.
Who?
What's for number 5? Final Fantasy 5.
What 5?
Is it Bart's or?
Did I play that one? So I played the first one. I played 2, which was 4.
2 was 4. Yeah.
And that's Cecil.
That's Cecil.
And then I think I played 3. I don't think I played 5.
Okay. Yeah.
So that would probably be why.
Titus is a bitch.
He's a bitch and a half.
1 hundo, okay? On that, okay? But Orin is the baddest motherfucker
He is.
ever, okay?
He is.
And so if you're going to be like, hey, it's not a badass main character, agreed, okay? But I feel like it had one of the best summoning systems ever because those creatures had their own systems. You could buff them. You can unlock new magic abilities. They can learn all the black magic abilities, and you could actually buff them out with items and stuff. And then also you had Lulu, which was 100% my crush right then. And but Orin was a badass character. Each one had a proper class in my mind, and dude, it was one of the most beautiful games ever on PlayStation 2.
Visually, it was absolutely stunning. The opening Blitzball cinematic.
Oh my god, with the metal music and everything.
Yeah, that was amazing. I loved. So what I did like about it, the idea of sin and this recurring cycle.
Yeah,
and you have this whole religion, and it's just gone on for thousands of years, and you keep doing it, and that you end up being sucked into this world, but it's actually time travel.
Yeah,
and then you never really existed. When you beat it, and you kind of disappear.
Yeah,
that was all really cool,
and it's so very JRPG. It's right in the middle of that, you know. Because once again, it's what is the biggest creature that's terrifying people? It's a big fucking whale. It's a floating whale that just fucks shit up.
It's like a demon whale.
Yeah, it's a demon whale that drops literally shrimp that are the size of a chocobo. And
it's true.
It's a big ass shrimp that's attacking a full size chocobo knight. Like that. Like it's weird.
It's a little weird, but I hated that Titus was I just really hated his clothing and his art direction.
Fair.
I hated the little.
It had a very unique art direction that either you loved or you hated. And honestly, even me, I only liked certain parts of it, and the later Hosen look was not one of them. I'll agree with that.
And then the other guy, Waka, the baseball player.
Yeah.
I thought he was cheesy. I think her name is Riku, the little.
Yeah. She was the tech
girl.
One. Yeah.
Didn't like her. I did like Yuna.
No one, you didn't like anybody. No wonder you didn't like the game.
But I did like Orin. Orin is why I beat that game.
You can't not like him. He's so badass. He low keys that he's actually dead the entire time.
Yes.
Like, how badass are you that you're like, just so you know, I'm immortal? That's the first thing I would say if I was dead, right? But he's like, that's just a detail on top of everything else. And he doesn't even actually care to fight fully until he takes his sleeve out. And then he's like, all right, now I'm going to fuck shit up. Oh my God. He has so many badass levels. He's like not that deep of a character. He's very just I'm a protector and I'm a vengeful.
I have a mission.
Yeah, exactly. But just the fact that he's like, my level 1 badassness is me in a sling and I'm just going to do shit, right? And then my level 2 badass is, okay, all right, I'm going to get this arm out. Level 3 is like, okay, I'm going to spit literally alcohol onto my sword and make it suddenly this status ailment sword. And then like level 4, I was dead the entire time, bitch. I'm just helping your ass out.
Somehow a ghost that physically still exists.
Yeah, literally, he died and went, nah, I'm good. I'm going to keep on living. Straight up, he was murdered. And he's like, no, not for me. I'm going to keep on living.
I'm going to keep living, yeah.
I made a promise to some other sports douche that came out before me. All right, I'll help your little
That's
boy
true.
out.
They were both douches.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Jekt was straight up a dick. No, like I can see why he has daddy issues. Like, Jekt didn't have any redeeming qualities whatsoever.
No.
Yeah. You're right. If you don't like the characters, I can totally get it. Now, one thing, like, as much as I love 10, I even have a part of my tattoo that has a piece, just like a weird, obscure piece from 10 in it. As much as I love it, the dialogue, it's the first time they had spoken dialogue, right? And there are some parts that are amazing, but there are some parts of the spoken dialogue, the written lines that are bad. Now, here's a weird thing in I don't know if it's translation or what, but in the English translation of the dialogue, they use "ya know" as an ending to a sentence on easily hundreds to 1,000 lines in there. So people are like, "But it's important to me, you know." And I'm like, "That doesn't."
I hadn't thought about that.
If you ever go back and play it, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb because I play it and I'm like, don't fucking say, you said it. But this is really important to us, you know. But she might die, you know. But we got to get there, you know. I'm like, who wrote this? I get so annoyed. But
that's a good point.
Yeah, man.
And now that you said it, I can remember one scene where they say, you know. There's that one famous scene, the Titus laugh scene, that people always make fun of. Again, it didn't bother me until I played it a second or third time later.
It's cringy. It is cringy. Like the idea behind it is pure. Like because like the entire idea is like, hey, we're just gonna like it's such a shitty situation that we just got to pretend like it's okay. That's the idea behind that scene, right? But then how that translated, it's bad. Even the voice artist who did it, James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Titus, he's like, it just didn't work. He's like, it's one of those things.
I wonder how it feels to be him.
Yeah. Well, let's see. He's also the voice of Johnny Test. He's the voice of Obi-Wan on
I didn't know
on the 3D kids one. What is it?
Oh, Clone Wars?
Clone Wars, yeah. He's the voice of Obi-Wan. He's the voice of Fred Flintstone. Dude, he has so many voiceover credits under his belt. That's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
I met him, though, and he's a fucking cool guy. So I met him, and I told him, like, hey, I actually met my wife because of Final Fantasy X. Like, so this little unit we have right here might not have happened if my wife didn't love Final Fantasy X the same way I did. He's like, that's awesome. And then he like actually put that on his blog and shit. And then he signed one of the prints that I designed just for me. I don't even sell it. I did a Final Fantasy X print. And he signed it for me. And then I lost it when I moved.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, that sucks. So I'm like, I'll just go get him to sign it. I'll get him to sign another one. So I printed another one out. And I walked up to him like, hey, I had you sign this before. He's like, yeah, you and your daughter and your wife. He totally fucking remembered everything.
Wow.
Yeah. It had been 2 years since I had seen him. And he's like, oh, yeah, you guys met because of the game. He's like, yeah, totally, I'll sign this. He's like, wait, did you pay? I'm like, yeah, I paid for an autograph so you could sign again. He's like, no, I'm not going to pay for this. Give him his money back. And he signed it again. And he's like, cool, do you want a photo? I'm like, yeah, sure. And he was like, yeah. He's like, I tell that story all the time. So even more so, I'm even more sold on 10.
So like, the fact that your family started because of 10, I'll give you that. Yeah. And it's not that bad. I just like to shit on it between you and I because we, yeah.
And honestly, you have valid points. 100% you have valid points.
It was at the same time, though, it was visually and scope-wise a next level.
But it's like 7 that way.
Yeah,
yes. Like it was the beginning of that, and
because I think 12 is better. 12, yeah. I would say for me it goes 8, 12, 7, or 8, 12, 9, 7.
See,
maybe.
And I couldn't even get into 12.
Really,
the story didn't draw me in. It was beautiful, and they did way better on the voice acting, but I remember specifically, I'm like, I'm not connecting with any of this. I'm not connecting with the story.
That's
I'm not
so weird.
With any of it.
I think that's one of the best. Well, sort of. So the problem was 12 was originally. Do you remember Balthier, the Sky Pirate?
Yeah.
He was the game is really about him, and when the game ends, you realize like, oh, this was actually about him and his heritage and political intrigue, but they didn't think. They got cold feet because, like, well, we've always had sort of a prepubescent boy as the main character.
Yeah, and Vaughn was a bitch, too.
And he was a bitch,
Vaughn was a bitch,
too.
They
made Vaughn to be the new replacement main character because they got cold feet with Balthier.
Oh, if they had led with Balthier, that would have been badass.
It would have been way better.
Because he was one of the most interesting characters.
He was the best character.
Yeah. Who was the soldier that was
Bosch. Bosch.
Yeah, Bosch,
whatever how you pronounce it.
He could have been cool too. He was kind of like the new Orin. He was kind of like that.
He was
same
similar.
Area.
Yeah.
Yeah. But literally, I remember like the character that I connected with was Balthier. Yeah. Because he was the most interesting. He had character.
Yeah.
Vaughn was just this blank slate, and he was just kind of there. Like nothing drew me to him. And out of all the characters, I thought he was probably the weakest link. Like even Fran was more interesting to me.
And that's the difference between 10 and 12, or 12 and 10 for me, because I hated both the main characters. They were both bitches.
Yeah.
But I kind of liked I really loved Bosch. I really, really love Balthier. I like Fran, and even her Penelope, the girl. She was not that for the girl character. I thought she was less annoying than Riku.
Sure.
Whereas Final Fantasy X, I liked Auron and I liked Lulu's boobs, and that was about it.
That's a lot to like, though.
There's quite a bit
There's
to like.
a lot
if
to
she
like.
didn't, I wasn't into the gothic belt thing.
I was all about it, man.
Like, why do you need 70 belts?
Because it worked for Adam. That's literally what was in the art direction. They wrote, you know what, this isn't going to work for everybody, but there's this guy in Utah. He's technically 14.
He's going to love these belts.
And he's going to be all about it. Because it was just like, it was that weird when goth was almost
emo and goth
cool.
was in. Yeah,
like it was in the middle of goth, but it was like, we don't know what's going to happen later, but we feel like belts are going to be really important, and that it worked for me. But no, I get you.
To be fair, didn't Squall have 2 belts? Or
Squall
he had a
cross belt, and then he had a mid-drift leather jacket with fur.
Which is pretty bad.
Like, here's the thing. I remember seeing it, I'm like, that's a girl's jacket, but you're rocking the shit out of it.
But you have a gun blade as well.
Yeah, and gun blades are way cooler than a Buster Sword. I'm going to call that out right now.
That's true. I agree, too.
Yeah.
The Buster Sword, I remember seeing it like, that's really big. But even as a young kid, but you couldn't actually swing that. Like, that would weigh 2,000 pounds if the sword was that big. But then I guess Cloud is like this Mako-infused super soldier, so maybe that works.
But still, like, that was very anime for the time. Oversized sword. Auron carried it too. But I remember Squall and that opening cinematic with...
When they fight with Seifer.
Oh, my God.
He slices the face.
Yeah, they both do. He slices it, the blood, and then Squall comes up with that other side swipe. Oh, man. That was money for me.
Cinematics were, So in 10, the cinematics in 10 were the next level. I talked about this with another guest. At the time, there wasn't a lot of really high-quality 3D animation. And really, JRPGs...
They were leading it.
They were the leader of the pack.
Yeah.
That was the leader of the pack. You had... Do you remember the show Reboot?
Yeah, I remember
so there was like Reboot, Beast Wars. There was a few things.
And here's the thing. Beast Wars looked really good for the time.
But
Reboot did not.
Reboot looks so bad when you see it now.
You look at it now. It is rough. It is so rough.
And none of those came even close to the cinematics in JRPG games.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, especially in the PS2 era, that's when suddenly, like, holy shit, this is, like, if you were to compare it to something in America, it'd be like Toy Story level. That's where it was at.
Hold on 1 second. I think... Oh, no, it's working. I didn't see any... Talking your mic?
Testing.
It just froze for a second. We're
Terrifying.
Still working. I can cut that out.
Yeah, so, like, I think, like, that was the first time you saw Toy Story level graphics. Like, holy shit, this is intricate. You saw it different. Like, I'm going to go back to 10, but, like, you see him sitting waiting for the Blitzball tournament to start. He's in this glowing pool of water. It's real water. You see like glistening drips coming out. You're like, holy shit! There's actual singular hairs and shit. It was crazy.
What's the girl's name? Yuna. The scene where they kiss in like the
water.
Lake.
Oh yeah.
That was like the animation was amazing.
When she's doing the sending and she's going up that wave and like you're seeing all the fireflies. Like, dude, that shit was amazing for the time. And that was like the beginning of them doing Final Fantasy Spirits Within. They're like, we can actually make this into a movie.
I forgot about that. I can't believe you brought it up.
Spirits Within? Dude, it's amazing.
I loved that movie.
Like, I was sad that it wasn't more Final Fantasy based.
Yes.
But it was beautiful. And I own it. And I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, my dad actually went to the theaters to watch it with me because he was curious. So my dad hated video games. I spent too much time playing them, but he was curious about graphics tech, and so I would show him cutscenes for new games.
Yeah.
And he had seen 10, he had seen 12, I think, and he knew it was the same company, and he was like, at the time he was really curious because he loved the movie The Abyss.
Okay.
Remember that?
Okay,
and the alien had there was like one of the earlier computer generated.
Yeah.
Terminator 2 had that similar kind of liquid effect.
Yeah.
And he was, I want to see these guys. I know it's going to be cheesy and lame, but I also know that these Japanese people have the best computer animation.
So he took me
to see it in the theaters, and it blew both of us away.
Dude, and that was the first time, so you know what the Uncanny Valley is, right?
Yeah.
So that was the first time that I feel like they successfully moved past the Uncanny Valley to an extent. The Uncanny Valley is still there. But
when you watch it back now, it's more noticeable. But at the time,
you're like, that is as real as it has ever been to a real human talking.
I remember, I think it's Sid, the older guy. He looked the most realistic. And he moved the most realistic.
Yeah. And there were a few times, like, I mean, you had the weird flowy hair and shit, but there were times in that where you looked and you're like, oh wow, that's actually graphics. Like it almost took me. I thought it was real for a split second.
Yes.
There were a few moments like that. Like that. I mean, but that was the first time that I really pushed that uncanny valley for sure in film. I think that was crazy.
Did you see 15 Kingsglaive?
Yes, loved it.
That
Yeah.
had the same effect years later. I'm like,
Yeah.
and now at this point, there is a lot of good CG in Hollywood.
Yes.
But a lot of times it's like you have real actors. There's other than like Pixar movies, which are full CG, but they have a different art style.
Yeah.
Cartoony. Kingsglaive was like, man, they could do a full CG movie.
Yeah.
Because there was moments where, what's the main character's name? He's got the short.
I can't remember, but yeah, I know who you're talking
There
about.
were moments where the same thing. I'm like, I can't believe this is not a real actor.
Yeah.
There are certain sequences where
I mean, obviously it's mocap and stuff too,
Yeah.
but it's still like it was so close.
So
and
close.
So much detail. Like when Last of Us came out, that was like I just want to watch a movie of this. I could watch a full movie of the CG, the acting, the motion capture, the way that they did the animation with the facial animation. It was watching a real person in my mind so many times. You know,
dude, the opening scene to Last of Us.
Oh.
And have you replayed it now that you have a kid?
dude, I already had a kid.
You already
when-
had a
I already
kid.
had a
Oh,
kid.
so you-
my heart, man.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I cried like a bitch. I'm not even gonna pretend. Like I played the cinematic and like when you got to the cinematic title intro after it, I was like, oh my god, like I actually had tears. I'm like, what just happened?
Yes, greatest introductory
Oh my God.
to a game I think ever.
It pulls you in so quickly because it goes from that lighthearted, okay, this is a weird thing, okay, you're a dad, whatever. But then you could just see the emotional and like the theme turn, like just so quickly. And then suddenly you're like, oh fuck. And just how like almost it was since you were going from the perspective of his daughter and you don't know what's going on and the way that they were portraying it in the car and everything.
Yeah.
And you're just seeing elements of it. You're seeing
Zombies break out.
You're seeing some stuff on fire. You're seeing him avoiding helping people. You're like, what the fuck is going
And
on?
she asked, for those who don't know this game, it's about a zombie outbreak, post-apocalyptic.
yeah.
Starts out, you play as this little girl as the zombie outbreak starts happening. Her
Yeah.
dad and her uncle come in, and you're in the car, you're trying to escape the city, and there's a scene where, like, you don't stop to help somebody.
Yeah.
And she's like, Dad, like, you
We should've
normally
helped
would
those
do
people.
this. Why
Yeah.
are we not helping them?
Yeah, and you see that she's just as confused, and she is your guide into the world,
To the world.
the world setting. But like before that, you're just with your dad, and you're helping him out, and I think you give him a birthday gift, right?
Yeah.
But then suddenly he wakes you up in the middle of the night, and he's like, "We gotta go," and suddenly you realize that this is going to be the theme of the game, and you realize that it's going to be about survival, and you're going to have to make hard choices and all that stuff. And the way that they introduced it, all the way through that intro, was just so amazingly done.
And then,
Amazingly.
spoiler alert, he plays the girl and she dies.
Yeah.
And that's like the opening. And she doesn't even die by a zombie. She gets
No.
killed by a soldier doing quarantine.
Yeah, who's trying to follow orders while her dad tries to save her, and then she dies in his
I'm
arms.
getting emotional just thinking about
Yeah,
it.
man. Like, and
Woo.
he's like begging for her to not be dead. Oh my god, yeah, seriously. Like, no, I had a kid. She was like maybe 2 at the time, dude. No, it ruined me, and I was like, this game is going to be in my top 10 for life easily, and it is. It still is.
Yeah, it's one of
Yeah.
It's one of the, and then the next scene is 30 years later or something.
Yeah, it's like 20 years
20
later, or
and you
something
just
like
see
that.
him, and he's grumpy and weathered.
He's dead inside.
And you already
and
know, like, I kind of already know what's been going on the last 20 years without you having to tell me.
Yeah, you can tell that he's just he's a completely different person. You can tell that after that he changed as a person and he made bad decisions and hard decisions, and he became very much more numb to a lot of different things.
And then
Yeah.
the ending, spoiler alert, again, he's attached to this new sort of surrogate daughter.
Yes.
And she has the ability to basically, she has the cure.
Yeah,
she's immune to the
she's
zombie
immune
virus.
to the zombie virus, and so the entire game arc is you trying to get her to a facility that they can
reverse engineer
a cure. But you don't realize that for them to do that,
They have to kill her.
they have to kill her. And so you have to make that. So he makes the decision to this time save the daughter that he couldn't save
He
before.
couldn't save the first time. Fuck the human race.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saving my daughter. I'm not going to have this
I'm
happen
saving
again.
my daughter. Yeah, this time I'm saving her.
Such a good ending. People still talk about that ending. Like,
Some of the best storytelling ever in gaming, easily.
I know we're kind of skipping ahead, but I really parallels. Did you play God of War? The new God of War?
Yep, amazing,
Woo!
amazing gameplay.
Might be. I know I have like JRPGs are a separate category, but as far as just games in general, I know it's cliche to say because it won the game of the like. It might be my favorite game.
Really?
In general.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how much I liked that game.
That game was amazing, and I feel like it was the best direction that they could have ever done for the God of War series.
To rejuvenate that series.
Rejuvenate it, reboot it. Don't hold on to Kratos as this angry, one-dimensional character that was very, very 2004. Yeah, realistically, like that was the days
what it was.
That was days of badass.
They even took out the naked topless chicks.
No, they didn't. They're still there.
Well, you can't have sex with girls like you can in God of War 1, 2, and 3.
I think you're right. I think you can have sex
I would
with
know.
one of
I'm
them.
a pervert.
Yeah. Well, no, trust me. I went for the goal. I went for the gold with that too. I think you're right. But yeah, I mean, it definitely was what it was need. It was what was needed, and I think that it's definitely telling that we are trying to get into more in-depth storytelling in general, and that's what's really trying to sell when it comes to one-player games. Like multiplayer games, fuck that noise. You look at Overwatch and shit, and they're still like
I can't get into it.
Dude,
I tried.
Yeah,
I tried Apex. I tried Overwatch.
I tried Fortnite before it got shitty.
I don't like Fortnite either.
When it first started, I tried it. Like, I mean, like, right after they started the Battle Royale. This is before all of the prepubescent kids started flossing.
I was just going to say, before all the 12-year-olds just talking shit.
Yeah, way back in the day. Like, right after it came out after Rocket League, I was like, cool, I'll jump on that. And it didn't translate. I don't get the Battle Royale modes because they're boring to me.
Did you try Battlegrounds?
I tried Battlegrounds, didn't like it either.
Me too.
Yeah, I tried PUBG, I tried Fortnite, I tried Apex. I can't get into them. Overwatch, I understand why it's good. And I can understand why those other ones are good. It just doesn't draw me. You know, I don't know. Anyway,
speaking of God of War, did you play God of War on PS2? Is that one of the games you remember?
Yes, I beat God of War 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, I beat 1 and 2. Great games. If we're going back to PS2, Final Fantasy X, Jack and Daxter 1, 2, and 3, amazing. God of War 1 and 2, yeah, because God of War was it was the first time you started seeing those grand bosses. Those like bigger than the screen, you're climbing on them bosses. You saw that with that Shadow of the Colossus.
Woo, that's a good one.
Good. That one is good because that was the spiritual successor to Eco, which was also good.
It was also really good. I didn't play Eco until after Shadow, but Shadow I remember feeling like I didn't realize that he was killing himself to resurrect her until a few bosses in, because every time you go back and you bring the ceiling talks to you, and then the demons come out and take over your body. I'm like, oh, whoever this, because they don't tell you who it is.
No,
whoever this girl is, he loves her enough to sacrifice himself. And it was it was before Dark Souls came out, and in my experience, there might be games that predate this, but it was the first time I played a game that told the story through details and lore without overtly just narrating the story.
Yes.
You had to infer things from details.
You had to interpret and pick up stuff along the way. Yeah, that one, but I remember like it was the flying Colossus. I'm like, I am on top of this.
How am I going to get up there?
Yeah, it's like, what do I do? And like, when you're climbing them, you're like, I'm literally fighting a Colossus. Like suddenly these boss battles are not just you and this thing that can fit on the screen. It's like, no, only its leg fits on the screen and I'm climbing up it.
Yeah.
It opened up a new level of scale that was awesome. You know?
I would say other than God of War and Shadow of Colossus, there's nothing even close to like that. Before or even during the PS2 era, I can't think of any other games that have scale like that.
Before that, what you think about is you think about like Metroid and stuff, where like literally the boss technically falls off the screen.
Yes,
and you're like, oh, look how it fills up the entire corner of the screen, but you couldn't ever see how big that was, right? And then when you get into PS2 era and stuff, suddenly, holy shit, you can see this entire monstrosity, and you're gonna climb through it and whatever. So God of War, and also it was one of those ones where like, holy shit, there's actual like sex introduced into the game.
I don't remember there being sex in a game other than maybe Grand Theft Auto
and like Leisure Suit Larry shit, but that was like text based, whatever. I mean, that stuff was completely different. But that was the first time I was like, wow, there are big boobs in your face. That's going to happen
in a game.
In the game, and I'm gonna get experience points if I bone these two
you get
chicks.
Experience and health.
Yeah, you do, because I know that I feel rejuvenated after sex. Yeah, I mean that, like, but also the brutal finishers outside of Mortal Kombat, it really wasn't quite a thing too much. Like suddenly you have him like jumping on top of a Minotaur and ripping its mouth open,
breaking the jaw in half.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have him like decapitating like all the Medusas and shit. Like it was a brutal game for its time, but that's what the draw was, you know?
Yeah.
So
For me, it was also one of the first times a Western developer had tight action.
yes,
Because before it was like Japanese were king, especially JRPGs, but just action games. Devil May Cry,
that was the turn, man.
but Western games were more clunky.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, well, no, God of War is actually it's on par.
That's when Western developers started catching up.
Yeah.
Up until then, man, Japanese were on a different level. Like anything that's coming out of Japan was just way above and beyond. And then you started suddenly seeing these. They're like, hey, we're taking those same mechanics. We're taking what we like and we're doing it our own way. Devil May Cry was obviously great.
Yep.
1 through 3 was on there. I played all those. Resident Evil 4. Obviously, when it came out on PS2, like that's the thing. My PS2 library is still probably my largest library.
Okay, so that brings me to something I want to bring up.
Okay.
One of my favorite gaming memories is Adam Scott's Blockbuster service.
Yes, yeah, man.
So when I met you, you had your PS2, GameCube, and DVDs. By the way,
Yeah, I still have
you
most of those
had
DVDs.
how many DVDs do you think you had at your max, or do you still have them all?
I still have almost all of them. I actually did a culling a while ago. Before I did like getting rid of a bunch of ones, I had about 1,300, and then now I still have over 1,000. And I still have a ton, and I don't get rid of my games. I got rid of my games once when me and my wife were dating. She's like, "You don't play these games. You should get rid of them." And I was like, "Yeah, you might be right." And I don't think I've ever been more bummed out after I got rid of them. And she's like, "I'm never gonna tell you to do that again."
I had a true JRPGs collector's PS1 collection.
Yeah, and you had a trunk just full of all these
Mainly
rarities.
PS1 and PS2 rarities.
All of these rarities. They were black labels, most of them too.
Most
right?
of them were black
Almost
labels.
all of them were black. Yeah, I remember you were going on your mission or you just got back, but I was like, you need to leave those with me. And you were like, no, man, this is my stash. I'm like, no, you need to leave those with me.
Yeah, that was my treasure. And I don't remember. It was kind of the same idea. I think I had watched something about like decluttering your life, some bullshit.
Yeah,
and
what
I
a lie.
sold them to like some game shop on State Street, and I got like 800, almost $1,000 because
Nice.
I had 2 black label Final Fantasy 7s. I had 2 black label Suikoden 1 and 2s. I had black label Brave Fencer Musashi. All sort like black label Parasite Eve 1 and 2.
Yeah, man.
Legend of Dragoon, all the Wild Arms. I had everything, and I always get bummed out. Don't ever sell your shit.
Yeah, here's the thing. So actually, ever since the digital library started coming in, like for PS3, PS4, Switch and stuff, a lot of those games have lost value, which sucks because unless you're
That's
wanting
true.
true to cart. So I made a deal with myself, and I'm so far feeling comfortable with it. I don't purposely get rid of stuff, but I did get rid of stuff from anything before PS2, GameCube, 360. Anything before that, if I wanted to get rid of it, I did. I got rid of about a third of the library because I'm like, that's emulator capable. You know, like that level back, I'm like, I don't mind getting rid of that because
I can play it easier on emulator.
Exactly. I can throw it on an emulator on my PS Vita and I'll have my PS1 library there. But before that was capable, I held on to everything. But you can't do that with PS2 and with GameCube and shit quite yet. People say they can, but I've played it on computers. It's not the same.
Really? Because the PS2, PSX2,
that one is the
and
smoothest
Dolphin,
one. Dolphin is mixed bag.
Really? I've only
on
played
your
like
hardware.
10 games on it, and they've all been great.
Yeah,
but I don't know about.
Depending on your hardware and how you're running it, it can get really smooth.
Well,
on
I do
certain
have
games.
a GeForce RTX
Oh
2080
my
Ti
God.
over there.
I know. I saw that asshole. Right.
That's,
I saw that right as I walked in.
Look at that, just beautiful 2080 Ti. The sucky thing is there is an emulator for Wii U, Simu.
Yeah.
And some people are getting Breath of the Wild 4K 60 FPS. I can't do it, and I've gone through all the emulator tutorials. I should be able to.
You should be able to because you have the hardware.
Yes.
But it's the architecture.
Yeah. But other people have worse hardware, and they're posting videos of 60 FPS 4K Breath of the Wild.
So here's the thing. That generation is right in that weird gap where it's not quite perfected on PC as an emulator, but you can easily get the hardware, the actual hardware for cheap, and hack it. And then you literally get full-on use.
That's true.
That's that weird point where you should be doing that instead. Remember when Xboxes were being modded? I had a modded Xbox.
Yes.
Remember, it's like, hey, this is a primo time to do that. You can get it for, even if you spent a mint on it, it would run smoothly. Most of our Xboxes, when we did Xbox LANs, were modded.
We were all modded.
Almost
remember,
all
what's his
modded.
name? Was his name Chris?
Matt.
Little
Matt.
So I remember we were
Modding
hanging
Matt.
out and modding Matt. We were hanging out in Danny Huntsman's apartment, and Kevin Howard wanted to mod his own Xbox himself.
Yeah.
And it was a hardware mod where they soldered the chip.
The executor chips and
and
everything.
I remember we were all, I think you might have been there, we were playing Halo with 3 Xboxes, and Kevin got his mod to work, and we all started clapping and cheering, because we thought it was going to brick it.
Yeah.
And
it was, at that time, it was fucking black magic still to people.
Yes.
Like, I didn't know. I still don't know how to do it. But I remember Matt made an arrangement with me. He's like, dude, give me your Halo green Xbox, and I'll set up a mod one for you. I'll give you a clear case. And I'm like, and like $100 on top of it. And I was like, sold. I'm sad now because I don't have that green limited edition Halo Xbox anymore. But I had a gigantic fat, at the time, 500 gig hard drive.
with all
it was
these
stacked
games.
with all these emulators and everything. And dude, that thing was a monster. And it lasted up until about 4 years ago. It chugged along. And now there's a big community that still only mods Xboxes because they consider it the best emulating machine out there.
it probably is.
It probably still is. But I mean, because everything from Xbox, you could run most of your 64 on there. You could run some PS1, and then anything back behind there, you could run. And it ran coin ops really well too. So
I didn't know that. I never saw that on it.
all the coin ops on there. So all the arcade games, all of the Neo Geo, all that kind of shit, smooth as butter on there.
Damn, that makes me. I think when the Switch gets a better mod that I'm not scared to do, I'm probably gonna mod my Switch, because my Switch right now is basically just an indie kind of pixel platformer.
You pretty much just play
That's all
Stardew
I
Valley
play.
on it.
Yeah, no, I don't play Stardew Valley, which I've never got an Animal Crossing or whatever the one. Whatever the game you were talking about,
Harvest
Moon.
Yeah.
But basically, if a game comes out on PC that's 3D, I'll get it on PC. But if it's a 2D version, like a indie game, Hyper Light Drifter, I'll get everything I get on Switch.
So here's the thing. The one problem with that is that Nintendo is notorious for always patching out moddable options. And so literally they just barely stopped patching the Wii U. And so people are like, now's the time. Mod it out. They're not going to do any fixes on it. And now the 3DS is at end of life. They're waiting for that final patch so then they can mod the fuck out of the 3DS. I have a 2DS XL. That's the only, I have both the Vita and that on my nightstand. And so I'll switch between the two. And they're two amazing handhelds. But so you're going to be waiting a long time before your mod doesn't get patched out.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
You got a while, son.
Yeah, back to Casa de la to Adam Scott rental service.
Yeah.
So you had 1,000 DVDs, every video game known to mankind.
I had just on the disc-based games, I had easily 180 between Xbox, GameCube, and PS2. And then when 360 came out, I added easily another 60 titles right away. And so I had people come in, they'd grab a game, I'd write it on a list. I'm like, make sure to get back to me in
write it on the mirror.
Right on the mirror.
On the mirror. That was the deal. You had to write on the mirror your name, what game you took, so you could keep track. Because basically, every day someone was coming taking your shit.
Oh yeah. And there were some people I would stop borrowing to. They'd come back all fucked up.
Yeah.
But you weren't one of them. You lucked out. But everyone had 2 to 3 of my games, and I was like, okay. And do you remember that they sometimes were pulled out? Little games,
yes.
That's because those are when I look at my library wall, I got to make sure something sticks out if I'm going to want to play it later.
So they can't take the one that you want to play.
I'm like, don't pull out, don't grab any of the ones that are pulled out. Any of the ones are free game. Yeah, man. And so just for space sake, I don't have my DVD wall anymore because I literally spanned an entire wall with cases. So what I did instead is I got a one of those CD 1000 cases.
Oh, like the
metal
big
ones.
soft case.
No, the big metal ones that have the lid, and then it has rails, and then you put in a little slip. I organized them by alphabet again, and I have all of my basic DVDs and Blu-rays in there, and I filled it. And then I have all my limited edition shit, like metal tins, special cases and stuff, on another 4 shelves for all the other stuff. And then all my games, I don't take them out. I keep the cases and manuals. I keep them all complete in box. So I have an entire closet full of just games still. So I still buy hard copies as much as I can. But yeah, it's gonna be a long day in hell before I get rid of hard copy. I think I buy digital when I don't feel like I'm gonna want it later because I don't know when they're gonna turn off servers and shit. So
that does worry me sometimes. Like, what if Steam goes away? I have so many games on Steam.
Yeah. And here's the thing. You're looking at them turning off servers and getting ready to migrate stuff off of 360. And I'm like, unless you have a hard drive big enough to take all that shit with you, you're shit out of luck, man.
You don't have a game anymore.
Yeah. And if it's not been ported over to Xbox One compatible, you're fucked. And that's the thing is that certain publishers, you're not going to get that from anyway. LucasArts, who did Fractured and shit, they're gone. And it's one of those things that the intellectual property is in limbo. They can't bring that to the next one. They can't access certain things. So there's going to be titles that because of either corporate bullshit or political bullshit or whatever, or maybe the studio goes under, you're not going to get that. If you look at THQ, who did Darksiders, which is an amazing game, you know, when they went under, the properties only went to certain studios after that. And then like certain controlling of if you can download it or not also went with that. So you can only download certain versions. You can only download in certain areas. So I mean, I love cloud because it's cheap, it's accessible and stuff, but also you don't really own any of that.
You don't really own the game.
It's not yours. You don't get to actually hold it, and you can't borrow it and share it the same way. You can digitally in a sense, but also you can't. So like I do buy digital, but I try and steer clear of it for the most part. Yeah.
That's a good point. One of my favorite gaming memories is at that same house where we would write on the mirror to borrow games. The first time I saw a 360 game, you had that like old giant TV that
big
was
screen, a rear
7
projection.
feet deep.
Yeah.
Like the thing was the biggest TV I've seen in my life.
Yeah. And was it Gears of War?
It was Gears of War. And I saw you playing Gears of War. I came over and I just couldn't believe the fidelity. And then you know how Gears of War, when you run, the camera kind of crouches.
Yeah, the
and
roadie
shakes.
Run. Yeah, and in like literally you saw like drips of water when you ran.
I remember
in the
watching
rain.
you play that like, because I did own an Xbox. It was the first, but I was really still a PS2 because I had PS1.
Yeah.
And I was getting PS3 or it had come out, but I remember thinking like, do I need to get a 360? Because that Gears of War shit is badass.
I remember it was you and Kevin Howard.
Yeah,
Kevin Howard. That we were hanging out, and I remember you guys like
blew our loads.
Yeah. You guys wouldn't shut up, and I was like, thank God I've already played this level because you guys would be really bothering me right now. But I was just here to show it off, and you guys were like, holy shit, look at the rain effect.
Yeah.
Look at all this. Look at all. I'm like, yeah. Actually, when you think about it, this game is fucking badass. Now you look at it, it's a big gray pile of shit compared to everything else.
It sucks now.
But at the time, the mechanics, the ideas, it was beautiful. Now, Gears of War isn't close to my favorite anymore, but dude, I own a Lancer from 2, of the full-size replica Lancers.
Oh, dang.
2, I own a gold version from 4, I own a regular version from 4, and I'm trying to find a version from 3, the retro Lancer.
So you would think that you're a huge Gears of War fan. You would think it.
But I do. I beat every single one. I played every single one. I like them. But just the fact that the Lancers are so fucking badass and they'll release them every single time. I'm waiting for the Gears of War 5 one. It's going to be a crimson one. And I already have a space on my wall. I made a gun rack. So they hang up on a rack, man. It's amazing. It's amazing. I love that kind of shit, though. I'm a sucker for collectibles. I have, like, the Halo Reach statue. I've got the Halo 3 helmet. I've got a full-size Kamari, which is like 18 inches. It's a fucking monster. I've got the God of War Atreus and him like slicing away.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, dude. I have all those. Like, so my gaming closet is full of games and statues. I have the Nathan Drake from Uncharted 4. I want the one from 3. Like, dude, I'm a sucker for collector's edition shit. All of my systems are a collector's edition. I have the God of War PS4 Pro. I have the Gears of War 4 Xbox One S. I've got a Alpine White PS3, the Halo 4 Xbox 360. Everything I have is limited edition because I'm a sucker. Like, they draw me in. I don't know why.
Do you have all your consoles hooked up through like an HDMI splitter at one time?
I have 2 TVs. I've got a current gen TV, which is a 4K 65-inch, which has the Xbox One S, because I don't have an X yet, the PS4 Pro, the Wii U, and the Switch are all hooked up to that. And then in my office, I've got a 52-inch HD TV, which has the PS3, PS2, 64, Wii, normal Nintendo, and that's what I've got on there. So I have everything that's literally I can put a game in, turn it on, I can play. Because I hate having to switch out cables.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can get splitters and shit like that, and it'll work out. But I have every single system except for an Xbox One X, and yeah, everything from PS2, GameCube and Xbox up, I own. I do have the GameCube and the Xbox hooked up to the office TV as well. Because I mean, I have to be able to play anything I want at any time. I don't like I'm that asshole.
Yeah, you don't have to like hook something up to play.
And ever since I started owning the trifecta when it was GameCube, PS2, and Xbox, and ever since then I always had to own all three, because then there's no exclusive that escapes me. I can always get what I want, you know. And I switched back and forth between which one I felt was the best for the generation. Like I feel like the 360 kind of beat everybody else out in that generation.
Yeah, it did. I think it sold more than PS3.
Yeah, it did. PS3 may have had better titles, but just the 360, their online play and stuff is just better. It was just better, you know. But then when you go to the Xbox One and PS4 blew it out of the water.
PS4,
come on,
just
man.
Basically raped
it
Xbox. It's been a bloodbath.
Xbox was a
Xbox won't even release their numbers.
Yeah,
sales,
because
they're like,
that's how bad it is.
Yeah.
They're like, it's the most powerful machine. I'm like, yeah, the second release gen, most powerful machine. But I'm like, but after it already got its ass handed to it, I'm like, and the games still aren't there. The games aren't there. Not there. You know, they just don't have the exclusivity that they used to have. And so I'm excited to see what
I wonder how that happened. How did that happen?
Well, that's the thing. They absorbed a lot of great IPs, but the IPs didn't evolve. Like, you look at Gears of War, dude. Have you played 4?
No, I played 1 and 2, and then I stopped after that.
So 1 and 2 were the same as 3, were the same as Judgment. They're all just muscle-bound crouch shooters, right?
Yeah.
Gears of War 4 was the same thing. But, dude, it's a different generation. It's a different type of storytelling. You got to have something more interesting in that.
Yeah.
And the gameplay, even though it's beautiful, it was boring as shit. You know, and they have that. They have Halo, which hasn't been able to compete. There's not a lot you can do with that, man.
What else is there? So I think Sunset Overdrive was a pretty good exclusive.
That's the thing. Nobody remembers it.
Nobody remembers it.
And then everything that you can play on Xbox that people like is usually a multi-platform one. Like, think about it. You got Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, that's multi-platform. You know, like Overwatch, multi-platform. Witcher 3, multi-platform. Anything that's really interesting, you can do on PS4 plus the exclusive,
which Sony has the best exclusives, hands down.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, so if we could wrap it up until, I guess, maybe PS3, give me your top 3 gaming memories.
Top 3 gaming memories.
It could be a moment in the game or anything.
Okay.
Up. It can be a moment in the game or like something that happened surrounding a game.
Okay.
Top 3.
So, top 3, I would probably say up to PS3 and down, like PS3, 360 and everything down. Okay, so I would say for number 3, it would be The Last of Us. Like, just the entire game. Like, that entire game just ruined me in the best way possible. Like, that game is just next level shit. Then number 2 is definitely Halo, because Halo was just that camaraderie game for our generation. Like, you and me met realistically because of Halo. I have lifelong friends because of Halo.
Yeah.
You know, and it's that game that suddenly became this weird connection, that it was accessible to everybody. Even if you were bad at it, you're still having fun. But also, it was a driving point for people to play.
Do you have a specific memory of a night, a LAN party that stands out to you?
Yes. So there was a night that we were supposed to have a Halo night. I don't know if you were back yet from your LDS mission, but we were supposed to play Halo at my house. Like, we were renting a house, me and 2 other dudes. One of them was our mutual friend Danny, and then my buddy Austin. And it was the middle of summer, we didn't have air conditioning, it was balls hot, and so we left the front door and back door open, because that's how you got cool air in, right? And we were waiting for Halo night to start. We had a few of our buddies over, and we were playing Halo in the front room, and out of nowhere, a skunk walks into my house and makes a beeline for my bedroom. And I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, maybe that's a cat. And I look over, I'm like, that's a skunk. And Rapesh, our mutual friend, goes, it's going for your room. And when he said it loud enough, it startled the skunk, and it made it run even faster into my room. Were you here for this?
No, I was not.
Okay.
I thought you were going to talk about the fire. I know there was a fire at that house.
Yeah. But a lot of shit happened at that spot. Okay, so this skunk story, this is called officially the skunk story. Like, this happened a week after our basement flooded. And so we had a bunch of fans going downstairs. So we were all playing upstairs, so that's why we had everybody in there. So the skunk goes into my room, and you remember my room was set up. You walk in, there was a couch, the big screen TV to the left,
and then
with
your bed
the DVDs and stuff. My bed was to the right. It went right under my couch.
It's Friday night. We don't know what to do. So I call up animal control. I just shut my door and I call animal control. I'm like, hey, there's a skunk in my house. What do I do? And they're like, oh, animal control's closed. You got the police. I'm like, okay, what do I do? Like, we'll send a cop over. I'm like, what is he going to do? What the hell is he going to do? And so by this time, the rest of the Halo crew has shown up. We have like 8 or 9 guys, but the basement flooded. So we had all of our couches from downstairs.
Upstairs.
The place is a wreck. And this cop shows up and he sees a bunch of dudes, a bunch of sketch-looking couches just stacked on top of each other. He thinks it's a drug den, probably.
Yeah.
And he walks in. He's like, I hear that there's an animal issue. And I'm like, yeah, there's a skunk in my room. He's like, are you sure it's a skunk? And I'm like, come here with me. Come here with me. So I bring him into my room. And he's like, okay, so where do you think it is? I'm like, it's under my couch. And so he goes and he flashes his flashlight under there. And when he does, he's looking around and he gets to where the skunk is. As soon as that light hits, it goes, and he goes, holy shit, that's a skunk. And I'm like, no shit, you big dumbass. That's what I said. And so I'm like, what do we do? He's like, well, I brought a cage. I'm like, cool, catch him. And he's like, no, I'm not going to catch him.
My tax dollars at work, catch it.
Yeah, I'm like, cool, you brought the cage. He's like, no, it's attached to the truck. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he meant that he brought an animal control car with a cage in the back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what do we do? He's like, I don't know, you got to catch it. And so I'm like, okay, hang on a second. I called you because I called animal control. They send you bring a truck, but you don't bring any sort of snare or anything for this. What am I supposed to do with this shit? And he's like, I don't know. By this time, another cop car has shown up with a dispatcher on a ride along. And those two walk in, and this guy's a sergeant. And he's like, hey, so I hear there's an animal issue. And the cop's like, yeah, there's a skunk in his room. I'm like, cool, so who's going to get out of my damn room? And so they're like, we don't know. And so by this time, our mutual friend Chandler has shown up. And Chandler goes, I'll help you catch it. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, you and me, man, let's go catch it. And I'm like, okay, what do we do? He's like, I'm going to grab that broom, and you're going to grab that box, and I'm going to lift up the couch, and you're going to put the box on the skunk. And I'll try and shoot it with the broom if I can. Now, my couch was a hide-a-bed couch, and so it was heavy as shit.
Yeah.
So, me and Chandler go in there, and we're sitting there, and
the cops are just watching. You're like, good luck, guy.
Are what? They didn't even come in. They were sitting in the hallway. So we shut the door so then it wouldn't go out there.
Yeah.
So what happens is that Chandler's like, is it still under there? I look under there with my flashlight. I'm like, yeah, it's still under there. He's like, okay, I'm going to pull the couch back, and then you put the box on it. Okay? So I'm like, all right, cool. So he pulls, like he's on the front of the couch where the cushions are, right? And he's pulling the back of the couch forward towards him. So the back of the couch is lifting up. And as soon as he lifts it up, that skunk's tail whips up.
Did it spray you?
No, it's whipped up. And I'm like, dude, don't move.
But it's ready.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, don't move. And he's like, why? I'm like, the tail's up. And he's like, are you fucking serious? I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking serious. And I'm like, I'm going to try and get close enough to it. If his tail goes down, I'm going to try and like lunge with this box and cover it.
The problem is, even if the tail's down, I don't know what happened, but I would think that even if you get the box over, it could still spray and fuck your room up.
Yeah, but I just wanted the asshole out of there. So Chandler has this big ass couch, and he's like trying to hold it back, but it's got that bed in it. It's all heavy and shit, right? And I'm trying to lean forward. He's like, dude, I'm losing my grip. And I'm like, no, you need to hold that shit. So he's like,
dig deep, Chandler.
Yeah. So Chandler, he goes to like get another grip, and it moves the couch a little bit. And all I hear is like,
oh no.
So I wasn't even close. I wasn't even close to it yet, and it sprayed. When it sprayed, Chandler starts leching. He drops the couch on the skunk, and he books it.
But did he smash the skunk?
No.
It just goes back under. Yeah.
He drops the couch, the skunk's still in there. By this time, it's sprayed. The damage is done. Chandler is running out, and as he's running out, they go, what happened? What happened? And Chandler's like, it's sprayed! It's sprayed! And he runs out the house. And by that time, everybody else runs out the house. I'm in my room, the door's shut, it's just me and this fucking skunk. And so I'm like, you know what, man? You already fucked up my room. All right. I wrap a hoodie around my hand, and I'm like, rummage mode. All right, let's get this bitch. I lift up the bottom of the couch, and I put my hand under there, and I try and grab it, and it runs off, and it goes back behind my DVD case. Okay, so I'm like, okay, now you're in a corner. You can't get out. I just got to get to you fast enough. So I look, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get in there. And I pull the DVDs back, I rip my hand in there, and I grab it by the back legs. And I got it, and I'm like, I don't know what part I got, but I got it. I'm gonna hold on tight, and I'm gonna rip it out. When I pull it out, I realize I got it by the back legs.
Oh, no.
I got it by the back legs and his tail, and I can feel it spraying this hot
my gosh!
in my hand.
Oh no!
So,
I've heard that is impossible to get out.
Yes. So I'm sitting there, and I'm holding it, and I've got his tail and his back legs, and dude, it is whipping around trying to bite me. It's whipping around trying to get me. You want to check? Are we still recording?
It's just you're kind of far from the mic, so.
Oh my god. Okay.
We're good.
All right,
We're
I'm
good.
here. So, I'm holding it, and I just have my hand wrapped in a hoodie, and this guy's holding, and he's whipping around. And so I open up the door, and the only person in the hallway is Danny. And Danny sees it, and he goes, "Oh, motherfucker!" And he runs out. And so I'm like just walking slowly, and it's still whipping around. I'm trying to like shake it. Every single time it tries to whip around, I shake it back down. And I walk out the front door, and everybody's in this like half circle, like talking, like, "Hey, what happened?" And I go, "What do I do with this?" And when I say that, everybody scatters. The cops, the Halo guys, everybody. By this time, my landlord has shown up because the neighbors had said, "There's cops outside your rental property. What's happening?" And he sees the skunk, and he just starts laughing. He's just like, "I can't believe this is happening." So long story short, when it was whipping around and I was walking it out, it bit me. And so they're like, "We got to test it for rabies." So I'm like, "Cool, what do you do then?" He's like, "Oh, we got to kill it." I'm like, "Cool, get it out of my fucking hand and kill it. I don't care." And they're like, Can you just hold it?" I'm like, "What?"
What?
I'm like, "Just hold it." And so the big guy, the first cop that shows up, whips out his club.
Oh my
gosh. "Just
gosh.
hold it." And I'm
Wow.
like, "What?" And so I'm holding it. It's still spraying my hand.
Oh.
And I'm like, and so I have it on the concrete, and I'm like, "Get it, get it, get it, get it." And he goes to hit it. Dude, just the weakest ass limp wrist, just, And I'm like, "What? What just happened?"
This
I'm like,
thing lives in nature. It's metal. It's...
I'm like, "Hit this bitch." I'm like, "I'm tired of this thing spraying me. Knock it out." And he's like, "It won't stand still." I'm like, "No shit. It doesn't want to die." I'm like, "Fucking murder it." And so finally he hits it. It knocks it unconscious enough that he can club it a few more times. It's dead. Okay? And I pull my hand out, and I'm like, "It bit me. What do I do?" And they're like, "We can't do anything. We're going to cut off its head, take its brain, test it for rabies." And by this time, everybody's like, "This is the craziest Halo night ever. I don't even know what to do anymore." And I'm like, "Guys, I don't know what to do. My room is covered in skunk smell. My hand is like, what do I do?" And they're like, "I don't know. Do you want to play Halo?" I'm like, "Fuck no!" It's like midnight by now. And it started out as a great Halo night to me ripping a skunk out of my fucking DVD case, like my DVD rack or whatever. And so it took 2 weeks total for it to get the scent out of my hand.
I've heard it's a bitch.
Yeah, and for me to get it out of my room, I had to use coffee grinds, a mix of Lysol and Clorox, and straight up bleach. And I literally had to go through every single DVD case, every single game case, and I had to wipe everything down. I had to put coffee grinds everywhere to absorb the odor. I had to completely re-scrub my couch and everything. But that was Halo Night 1 week. By the next week, I had had the odor out enough. It still smelled like skunk and shit. But all the guys came back and they played Halo. Everybody's like, "Dude, your room smells like skunk." I'm like, "No shit, because you bitches left me to fend for myself and get the fucking skunk."
I never heard this story.
Dude, so the best part, everybody who plays Halo was upstairs, and this was a crazy story for them, right? Our roommate, Austin, didn't hear a damn thing that happened.
Downstairs. He's downstairs.
He's downstairs. We had fans blowing on the flooded part, and he listens to music. So he came up at the very end of the night. The cops are gone, and he's coming up with his mac and cheese bowl. He's like,
"What is it?
What the fuck's that smell?" Like, he missed everything. And we're like, "Dude, did you not hear the cops and our landlord and everyone running and Adam coming out with the skunk?" He's like, "No, was there a skunk here?" And he missed it all. He missed it all. That's probably my best story, like, for video gaming, because after all,
you ended up not playing that night.
We didn't play that night. We canceled. But then the week after, even with all the skunk smell and everything, and my hand still smelled like a skunk, and we played that night. We played Halo Night the very next week, and we had this crazy story. And somewhere, I think Chandler still has it, is a photo of me holding that skunk.
I need to find that
in a hoodie. And I'm holding it, and you can just see my hand, and this little skunk just chilling out there with his front legs and his face. Yeah, dude.
You didn't get rabies, obviously.
No. What's funny is that I had to keep on calling because they were like, "Oh, yeah."
They didn't follow up with you.
No. So I was like, "Do I have fucking rabies or not?"
Orem City, get your shit together.
Get your shit together, Orem City. You left a man hanging. Yeah, it was a quite a night. But we've had so many Halo nights. But like Halo was like the unifying.
Yeah.
For so many of our friendships. It's crazy.
I think it's a good place to wrap it up. Tell people where they can find your art on Etsy again.
Yeah. So art is Atamu Media, ATAMU Media on Etsy. That's my shop name. And it's also on Facebook. You can like it on there. My Instagram's linked to that too. So you can find that stuff there.
Sweet, man. We'll do this again. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been real.
See you guys later. Yo, and that is a wrap. Give it up for Adam. Again, I had a fantastic time talking to Adam. Make sure to like his shit online, Atamu Media. Check his artwork out. He makes dope shit. If you're interested in any sort of awesome decoration for your man cave, your house in regards to video game art, he is the place to check out. And if you're listening to this right now, it means that you listened to the entirety of the podcast. And in all seriousness, thank you very much. That means a lot to me. But it's not enough. Now I need you to go out, my faithful servants, and bear testimony that I, Cade Call Roboclip, is an ordained prophet, seer, and revelator of the Gaming Memories Gospel, the good news of the Gaming Memories podcast. Go forth and bear testimony of the blessings that come from those that engage and share and like and subscribe to the Gaming Memories podcast. I invoke the powers of heaven to bless you from the great gaming gods themselves. Anyway, if you low-key want to join my cult, the Gaming Memories cult, hit me up. I bet I'll let you in. Coming up next on the podcast, I have one of my dearest, closest, and oldest friends, Omar Puestwich. Omar was the original brainchild behind Damson, the record label that I helped co-create and manage for years and years and years. And because of that, I had great success with my own musical career and made a lot of connections that I'm still utilizing today. He's also the social media manager for the shoe company K-Swiss. It's going to be an awesome episode, and I hope you guys stay tuned for his episode coming up next. Cheers.